Welcome to the Natural Infrastructure and Growth Scrutiny panel. Looking forward to a productive meeting. Just on some housekeeping matters, we're not expecting a fire alarm today, but if we do hear one, if we can follow the signs and meet outside in the Civic Square, that would be great. Can I please ask you to turn your microphone on when you're speaking, turn it off when you're not. It does cause issues when you watch it back and then two people have got their light on and it's not actually on the speaker. It can cause some issues, so I'm just doing it to be helpful. Please put your mobiles on silent or turn them off. That would be great. And like I said, this is going to be on YouTube. People can watch it now and they can watch it at their leisure forevermore. Any apologies, Hannah?
Through you, Chair, we've received apologies from Councillor Darcy and Councillor McCarthy is hoping to join us but running late.
Good, the message was passed on. That's good. Any declarations of interest? If anything's coming up, then you can always bring it up at the time, okay, if you think it's getting close to something you are part of. But obviously most things are on public record anyway. I don't have any urgent business, apart from to say we had a lovely visit, David, with your team. Glenn, thank you. Some of us went up the Civic Centre, brought back a lot of memories of what was an active building, but it was really incredible to see where we are and the future's bright to get that back and running. So really appreciate you putting that on for us. I know it was a last minute thing, it was a bonus ball, so thank you everyone that came. So without further ado, we have three main agenda items. The first one is the Plymouth Sound National Marine Park annual update. And we've got Councillor Briers Delve and the leader of the council, Councillor Evans, to introduce the report. And we'll go from there. That'll be great.
Thank you, Chair. Before I start, is it right? Are we now meeting weekly as a scrutiny committee? It feels like it. In which case, thank you very much for all that extra effort that you're all putting in to keep an eye on things. I've got to say, it's brilliant to be here today because we get the chance to talk about the great progress we've been making on delivering our Plymouth Sound National Marine Park. As you know, the UK's first national marine park. I know that the Prime Minister had talked about 2026 as being a year of delivery, but actually for us at the National Marine Park, 2025 was a year of delivery, wasn't it? But also a year of real momentum and growth. A year in which Plymouth really showed what it was like to be the home of the UK's first national marine park. At the heart of it all is a simple truth. People makes this park possible. And this year, more people than ever were connected to Plymouth Sound, in, on, under, and beside the water. More young adults were there to build confidence. More families found new reasons to explore the coast. More volunteers discovered purpose, community and well-being. And more partners from local groups to national organisations came together behind a shared mission to celebrate one of the most extraordinary marine environments in the country. Now, over the last year, we did not just make progress, as I say, we accelerated it. We completed major works at the Tinside Lido, transforming this iconic site into a year-round community hub where more than 2,000 people took part in activities in 2025 alone. And I had the great pleasure of talking to two prominent Plymouthians about him, and I accidentally bumped into him in the cafe. There was Birdman and a fellow who introduced me as the brother of the owner of the range. And yeah, we had a good chat about how important that terrace was and how much, and they told me how much they loved it. And they said that they wanted to tell more people in Plymouth about it, so they would come down and share that experience, because it is a fantastic facility for visitors, but it's a great facility for locals. Anyway, we pushed forward with the transformation of Mountbatten, secured the contractor for the new Mountbatten temporary pontoon, and that'll be going well, and begun the process of protecting the heritage of Mount Edgecombe's garden battery for future generations. I am so looking forward to you going and seeing that. I really think you should, if there's a possibility of you seeing before and after, I'd really recommend you do that. We're all used to the garden battery because we all stand on it, on top of it, and look out, and we imagine what it would have been like and all that, and the rest of it. But inside that battery is something special. But it will be even more special when this project is finished. So I want and encourage you to have a think about doing that. So investing in these things is important, but it isn't just bricks, it isn't just mortar, it isn't just steel. They're invitations, as much as anything, for our residents to step into their marine park with pride and with confidence. This year saw extraordinary achievements for nature recovery too. We were on the telly.
We were.
Which is always useful to be on a telly, but the spotted rays, I don't know whether you remember that last year, but I mean, having gone and seen that nursery that was created in plastic bins in the NBA, I mean, it was extraordinary, and learning about how each of the spotted rays have got unique spots on them. And all of these things are just so amazing. And when we visited, we were with a bunch of school kids, and they were like incredibly excited about seeing those things up close. And there's more of that. We actually brought together 30 leading experts to plan a pioneering seahorse conservation program as well. And you'll have known from the National Marine Aquarium that seahorses have been a very important part of our nature offer, I suppose, for a very long time. But I think the excitement around that expertise coming in is perhaps you could talk a little bit more about that in a mo. And seagrass, seagrass is better than trees for carbon dioxide harvesting. Who knew? Well, a lot of people knew actually, but it's really important what we're doing just a few feet away from this building, out of sight, but certainly not out of mind. So we are looking at that as a new model really for investment in nature. Now, we've also, got the rangers and a finer bunch of people you'd be hard pushed to meet. I mean, totally committed to what they're doing, to the nature, but also totally committed to people and making people more aware of what they've got on their doorstep. It's absolutely fantastic. And having them lead these programs, whether they're bio blitzes or wader walks, just getting up close and personal with nature has been a really important part of their work. We're working with more people than ever before. So in 2025, here's some numbers. Reached over 4,000 residents through Meet the Park programme. Celebrated 12,156 volunteer hours. Engaged 970 school children through our See in Our School sessions. Enabled 350 people onto the water at Mountbatten. Whilst all this disruption was going on, that's still amazing. 2,000 attendances at Tinside events, 12,000 visitors to Seafest, and 4 million social media impressions and over 20,000 website users. All of these numbers tell a story of confidence built, barriers removed, smiles created and lives changed. It's a park for everyone, Chair. Our first community access weekend welcomed 1,341 people, many visiting the waterfront and aquarium for the very first time. Now, we invested in translation, sensory adjustments, changing places facilities and accessible design. And through Blue Sparks, we doubled available community grant funding due to overwhelming demand. So what's 26 got in store, I hear you ask? Well, it's going to be a year of deepening our impact. We will launch the Stay Salty Nature campaign. I'm so excited about that. Open the new Mountbatten Centre. Yes, we will. Deliver our new digital experiences through See for Yourself. Launch our new website and CRM and support the delivery of the first Blue Sparks community projects. We will also continue to build the long-term legacy, and that will ensure that this park thrives long after the Horizons project ends. So 2024 was our year of firsts. 2025 was our year of building momentum. 2026 will be our year of growing our impact, and together we're creating something truly remarkable, a marine park for everyone, for always. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I believe Kat's got a presentation.
Thank you, Chair.
Magic. How long do you believe this will take?
I reckon a couple of minutes. I've just got some lovely
Don't
slides.
rush it too much, but just be succinct. That'd be
I
great.
will.
Thank you.
you. So, as Tudor said, we had a really great year in 2025 at really trying to reach further with the Marine Park, both going to people with our senior schools programme, where we had over 37 schools. And if you remember when we spoke to you about this previously, by the end of the programme, every single primary school in Plymouth will be offered to participate in this programme. And we also did things like Meet the Marine Park, where again we went to every ward in the city to make sure that if people haven't got the ability or haven't got the confidence to come to the Marine Park, we are going to them. So in addition to the brilliant pictures you'll see of people in the water and under the water, we are also working really hard to take the Marine Park to meet people where they are. And I think that's really starting to pay off through some of our programme, like our Blue Minds programme, where people are coming who have never been in the water because they're petrified of it, leaving, having really enjoyed being in the water and having that social interaction. So I won't run through the numbers again, but just to reassure that we are looking at a really inclusive programme as well as the big numbers. And we've really, through our open weekends and through the work we've done on some smaller scale events with people, really working out the best way to overcome the barriers for people engaging. Because ultimately, what we want to do is introduce people to the water, invite them in, make them feel comfortable, and then they will repeatedly come on their own and feel really safe and really safe in those spaces. So in terms of some of the bricks and mortar side, as Leader has said, we opened Tinside, which is a great opportunity to celebrate all the people that were involved in that project. And for those of you who haven't been down there anytime, please come down and have a look, because there's the really lovely mix of this beautiful space, which has now got a bar and cafe and it'll be a really vibrant and commercial, but it's also used very much for youth engagement. We have a youth room, we have a digital room, and we have a lovely space that is both in the cove and in the pool to help with that transition of people who've never swum to, by the end of programmes working with us, being in the bay looking at the wildlife. Mountbatten is really starting to ramp up in its transformation, and by the end of 2026 we're going to see some real differences there. And I was a bit, when you started talking about Edgecombe, I was like, oh no, I haven't put a picture in, but actually if you're going to come and see the before and after, it's worth doing because it really is spectacular. Yeah, I think there's one in the pack, but it is really worth having a look at. It is a spectacular feature, and what we want to do is make sure more people can enjoy it. So just in some of the wider area, obviously the Ranger programme's been recognised. The lovely whale was part of the CFAS. We are trying to look at all the ways to engage as many different people with as many different interests in what is rightfully theirs. So, you know, this isn't about making people feel part of the team. They're already part of the team. We just want to make sure that they are given as many opportunities as possible to enjoy it. And we're doing that through loads of our partners. So our key partners like Ocean Conservation Trust, like Plymouth Active Leisure, Mountbatten Centre, and Plymouth Culture, but also lots of more local organisations and groups through our Blue Sparks programme. So we are trying to do, you know, big things, small things within communities. And the Blue Sparks programme particularly would be great next year because that will be community-led delivery. So the grants programme was so oversubscribed. We knew it would be popular, but it just shows the demand out there for people wanting to be involved and having brilliant ideas, a real breadth of things from heritage days all the way through to arts and nature programmes. So I think the one thing that we can guarantee 2025 is raise the interest, and people now really want to be part of the programme. The other thing to just pick up is we know that not everyone can get to the water, so we're really focusing on our digital outputs as well. So we've commissioned with our partners See for Yourself that Plymouth Culture run a load of artistic programmes that will all have a digital element, and we're also really aware when we're doing volunteering, we have volunteering you can do from home. If we're doing things out on the water, we try and record it so that there's a digital element. So we're ensuring that, you know, even if you can't get to the water, even if you can't leave your house, you do not need to feel excluded from this programme. And that's something we really want to work on as we go forward. And just to make sure that everything that we put out there, whether it's a map or our interpretation, people feel like it's something for them and it's something they can be involved with. And I'll pass over to Elaine to talk about the really important part of when we've done all of the fun through the Horizons project, what will come next.
Thanks, Kat. Thanks, Chair. So as the leader said, we're talking about a national marine park that is forever, not just a project. So although it may feel early, it's time to start thinking about how we grow and sustain that going forwards as Horizons ends. So the work that we've been doing that I just wanted to share with you is some work around the development of the charity, which will act as the entity that would take the National Marine Park forward. We've now merged what was the shadow board for the National Marine Park into the charity in various ways, and now we're starting to look at doing skills audits to understand the gaps that we have and to bring on new trustees as well. It's vitally important that we find new and innovative ways of funding. We all know that the funding landscape at the moment is probably best described as challenging. We need to find other sustainable ways to be able to fund the National Marine Park into the future, and there's a lot of work around that. More widely, the work of the National Marine Park is being recognised nationally. We are working with, we've developed the National Marine Park Alliance, which is working with the Campaign for National Parks. We have over 1,000 people who routinely follow us, have our newsletters and also attend webinars, and that's really about sharing all of our learnings here in Plymouth. So that's about trailblazing nationally and sharing that impact that we've had, and also sharing when we misstep and we don't quite get it right, to try and help people accelerate the process for themselves. And part of that will be a National Marine Park handbook of, you know, try this, do that, maybe try that, so that we can just give people the opportunity to learn. It's also been a year of privilege for me. I was fortunate enough to be invited to a virtual marine roundtable for COP, where we were talking about marine governance and how we can actually grow the impact of non-statutory marine interventions, which is vitally important because not everything that we need will come from legislation. So we need to look at ways of mobilising more people, which is what our National Marine Park is doing, in more places and spaces, which is what our National Marine Park is doing. And that's really important. And then as well, looking at how we can share with coastal communities through the all-party parliamentary group on coastal communities, and looking at the role of national marine parks in place-based regeneration. That's really very much at the heart of what they're doing, and we're looking at how those interventions can develop. So a really exciting amount of work going on. And for those of you who are interested, the images are from our National Marine Park Minecraft world, which is developing, which is really good fun and exciting, and we're hoping to do more of that into the future. Thank you, Chair.
Brilliant, thank you. Any questions? Councillor Sprosden.
Thank you very much. I think it's brilliant hearing about the schools and especially the CR school programme. Obviously, it goes without saying, logistically, the schools closest are going to benefit a lot more, essentially. But I really enjoyed hearing about how you're trying to do that outreach to other schools, especially probably my concern is obviously the more deprived schools or the harder areas, especially being further away. With that in mind, I wanted to kind of just ask about special educational schools and those with additional needs, and how we're looking to how we're looking to be able to support those. Thank you.
I'm happy to start off on this one. So the CNR Schools programme is something that will hit the majority of primary schools across Plymouth over the programme. And there are two strands to it. There are strands that we are prioritising for multiple visits, and that's been chosen on various criteria, including some of the socio-economic ones. But there is at least one special school as part of that cohort as well. And it's not just the ones that are closest to Plymouth Sound, so it will cover them across the city, including a school in South East Cornwall, because we're also looking at how we link those into the Mount Edgecombe side of it as well. Anything more you wanted to add to that, Kat?
Yes, the way we're doing the schools programme, we're calling them cohort A and cohort B. So cohort A, we will work with through the entirety of the project. So we'll stay with them over the full 4 school years. And cohort B will have a 1 year opportunity to work with us, really to see how much difference it makes to their learning and understanding if they have something repeated. And it will be a different experience, but linking with the Marine Park. The way we chose cohort A was to look at, with the advice of our colleagues in education and children's services, is to look at key things like number of children that have free school meals, have SEND provision. So actually we looked for the schools where we felt the opportunity would have the greatest impact. And so we worked with them to kind of work out this criteria, and then the invites went out to the school. So it does cover a plethora, and actually there's a map in your pack that shows all of the areas that we're working in. And as we say, an invite will be for every single primary school, special provision or not, to be part of the programme by the end.
Quick supplementary, Chair. On that map, I can see the kind of green ticks and the purple ticks. Is cohort A the green ticks or purple ticks?
Do you have page reference?
Yeah, it's page 13 of 22. I was trying to reread it to see if I could see it in the text, but
I did a couple of times.
did you? Okay, I'm not alone. Thank you.
Looking at it, I think green are cohort A, but I will double check that for you and come back.
It's on page 17, I think, on our, so what we're looking at? Yeah.
Also, just on that point, originally the criteria was developed, and then we identified ones that we thought met our range of criteria and highest need, but obviously not every school in that bracket said yes to start off with as well, because it is quite a big time commitment. So the original spread did have quite a good geographic range as well, but it depends on whether schools want to have that long-term commitment as well.
Councillor Gosling, please.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and thank you very much for your presentation and the amazing things that are coming out in the Plymouth Marine Park. It's very exciting. I'm particularly excited by the new developments over in Mountbatten. I think these have been talked about for quite some time. It's fantastic to see them come to fruition in the near future. I've got a question really about the pontoon. It's sort of it's never explicitly said where it's going to be, but I presume it is at the same location as the current Mountbatten. Okay, so that's good. And also, with the new plans that are in the briefing pack, does this represent an increase, a reduction, or the same amount of sort of berthing space as you currently see at Mountbatten?
So yes, so in terms of where it will go, where the existing one is, it is bigger. So for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons is the passenger ferry will land there. So that has got its own hammerhead. It's also slightly wider because one of the things we wanted to ensure is that it's more accessible for people who have additional needs, like from a mobility perspective. And it's got a specially adapted sling so we can get people in and out the water onto sailing vessels or kayaks. And if you look at it, it has got more berths, with the reason being we wanted to make sure, a bit like why we've put cafes into some of the infrastructure, is so that we've got a commercial element that can keep it sustained at a really good quality over the lifetime of that pontoon. So it does have more, and we're looking with Mountbatten in a minute the kind of commercial offer that goes with that. But by making it bigger, it means we can have the recreation offer linked to Mountbatten, and that ensuring more and a more diverse group of people can access it. We have the commercial to make sure it's sustainable, and then we have the ferry landing as well.
Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Chair. This is one of those projects that really makes my heart sing every time you come in to talk about it. I think you've achieved such like a really beautiful breadth of engagement across a real spectrum, and I'm just really delighted that more people are engaging with the sea. I know how powerful it's been for me and my health, both like physical and mental, so I'm really happy that this project is going from strength to strength as it is. My question is just kind of on the kind of seafront infrastructure. We've already had 2 named storms this year that have really kind of battered their way against our shorefront. So particularly on kind of West Hope Pier and Tyneside Steps have seen some real damage. I wonder if you can pick up on what timescales we're looking at for repairs and kind of the short-term maintenance, but also the long-term security of those sites.
So some of this doesn't sit directly under the National Marine Park, so it'll be done under the corporate property side of things. David, is there anything you wanted to add from a wider point of view, or we can come back to the relevant?
I think probably from the wider infrastructure, perhaps Glenn or Tudor are a better place to answer that.
Sorry, so I give you a proper answer, can you just repeat the question?
Yeah, sure. So looking at West Hope Pier and Tyneside Steps, plans for short-term repair for the storm damage, and what we're looking at long-term to make sure those sites are robust well into the future.
Yeah, so I think in terms of the short term, so this is a conversation between myself and Cy Bellamy as Chief Operating Officer, because some of the issues around property management sit with Cy. So in the short term, we're talking about potentially using the funding that has been put in the budget for next year around foreshore management to do the short term fix on that. And then in the long term, Cy, as Chief Operating Officer, is in the process of commissioning asset management strategy that will balance the needs of the corporate estate across all of the portfolio. And the approach for foreshore management generally, but that site specifically, will also emerge as part of that process, so we can balance the needs strategically across the whole portfolio.
Councillor Holloway.
Thank you, Chair. And just to echo what Councillor McLean and others have said, I mean, it's just fantastic. And in a way, what's a real testament is I don't feel like I need to go into every line of lots of this, because I really trust the team we've got behind it, and we can see the great job that's being done. And sorry, Leader, that it feels like you're coming every week, but it's you're just doing so much work that we need to look at. It's a testament to all you're doing. So I have a cheeky question, and then I have a serious question. My cheeky question is on page 23. It tells us about the Stay Salty campaign that you referred to, Leader. Councillor Evans, Councillor Brysedale, how salty are you according to the Stay Salty scale?
I think I'm off the scale, depending on what day it is. If I'm honest, Councillor Holloway, as I say, we saw the presentation, and I mean they nailed it. You know, it's just going to be. I think it's one for all ages. Yeah. But I think it's really important that this is going to speak directly to the National Marine Park enthusiasts of tomorrow in a way that we probably haven't done before. I've got to say, I really like the cut of their jib, Tom. It was pretty good, wasn't it?
Yeah, the work that's been done on it has been amazing. The creativity, the visuals that are being mocked up, the use of poetry, the use of kind of really authentic Plymouth voices. And I think Tudor's right, you know, when we've had different sessions on it, the way in which people just read different things into that word salty in terms of generations, but also some of those connotations with, you know, salty sea dogs, and, you know, it's been really fascinating. And I, you know, on a serious point, I think it's trying to do behaviour change in a different way as well. there have been lots of very successful and very important national conservation charities who've had very serious messaging, which hasn't always landed with the general public, and sometimes you can preach to the converted when we'd focus on the very important catastrophes in ecology and in climate. And so this is a way of trying to do it in a more light-hearted way, where you get people involved, interested, asking questions, and then you can kind of subtly get the behaviour change working along the way. And I think that's really exciting from a nature but also a comms perspective.
Extra salty. I get it. Thank you. My more serious question picks up on Elaine. You were talking about the longer term financial underpinning of the National Marine Park. I think, broadly speaking, we've got a committee here very supportive of these efforts, and it would be, a tragedy for the city if we couldn't find a way to make this that sustainable, ongoing, long-term initiative that we all want to see. Can you give us a bit more detail on what happens at that cliff edge? What plans are being put in place? What's the role of the council? What's the role of the private sector? Can you spell out what the road to that end of the Horizon funding looks like?
Sure, thank you. Where we are at the moment is we're definitely not going to have a cliff edge. That's the principle of starting early in terms of looking at how we can actually fund in the long term. We had some work done as part of the development phase, which looked at potential funding models going forward, which was a very deep dive into all the different ways in which we might actually fund the marine park. And we've taken that work and now taken that forward, looking at strategically which are the best options in terms of where we might go for funding. And inevitably, as you can imagine, it will be a jigsaw of approaches. It won't simply be from the private sector or from the not-for-profit sector. We have to look at all of that together. And we're just starting to bring that work together, and there's an outline funding plan that we've put together, and we're just starting to put some feelers out to understand how we might be able to deliver that effectively.
Thank you, and I'm sure this committee would be happy to help share with those plans as they evolve. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Rainsford.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. It's so uplifting, to be honest, to see how this project has pulled in so many people from so many different backgrounds. The inclusivity is just phenomenal, and you should all be congratulated on that. There does seem to be a slight omission, though. Having read through the paper presented today, local businesses who clearly both contribute as well as draw people in and then pass them on to you, don't seem to get a mention at all. I just wondered if you could talk a little bit and tell us a little bit about the relationship with local businesses. I mean, are you using local businesses, for example, in helping to produce some of the documents and digital stuff you do? What's the relationship?
So there's a few different intersections. So first of all, the Horizons Board is very broad in terms of its makeup, and so business leaders are at the heart of the governance of that project. From Richard Stevens to the aquarium, to the university, involved in that. Small businesses benefit hugely from this as well, in terms of the events and the festivals associated with it as well, and work very closely with the National Marine Park team in terms of stalls and being able to benefit economically from that. There's also the wider piece around blue jobs and skills as well, in terms of employment pipelines. So every single month, the National Marine Park team share job listings in the blue sector, so that we're encouraging people to make the most of those opportunities economically, locally as well. Anything further you wanted to add?
Yeah, it's probably worth adding, obviously, with any procurement, we look local first. So in terms of the building firms that are doing the restoration works, we always try and look local first. And then, even to when we start looking at the Blue Sparks project, trying to keep as much local as we possibly can. And as you say, linking with the events. So you're right, we should really probably update you on that more in these updates, just to make it clear where all those strands are and where the spider web links out into the wider communities.
Not supplementary. That's helpful. It would have been. I just think it would have been nice for them to have had a mention somewhere. Given they're sitting on the board and doing all sorts of other stuff. And I assume you would also be involved in consultation with local business if, say, you were working on Marine Park signage along the waterfront, just to make sure that it all worked together and they weren't putting up their signage, which countered yours and so on.
Yeah, so the interpretation plan from the very beginning was to do a refresh and review before we started, so there wasn't another coloured sign that went up there. So we're still working on that at the minute because the lottery are really keen. We looked at some innovation around the interpretation and make sure that people's stories were really at the heart of that. So you won't have seen any new signs yet for that very reason, but there will definitely be a look and feel that we need to work with the businesses along the front as well as the communities that live there.
And of course, waterfront partnerships, it's
Councillor Evans?
I was just going to mention that because we had, in one of my recent visits to this forum, we had the bid conversation, didn't we? And there was a mention there around signage and stuff in what the yeah. So I think it's important that what we're doing here is not a repetition of what they're doing or duplication of what they're doing, but integration with what everybody's doing. I think that's the most important thing. I mean, you know, as with the usual stuff, you've got funders to please. So it's obviously more complicated than it might otherwise be. But what is going to be really interesting, I mean, we've had all sorts of conversations about interpretation of signage, including, I think we had the Talking Cobblers project, didn't we, at one point? Yeah, it was a piece of innovation that we decided not to innovate with. But you know, there is so much available to us now in a fast-moving field, and I mean I don't know whether you've been watching the stuff that's coming out of the box lately. Actually, not the box. It's a private sector individual who's doing AI generated stuff on the barrel cook. Don't know if anybody's seen what he's done with Mildred this week. The rampaging mammoth from the box. But so it just demonstrates what's possible. So we're not hidebound by finger posts and flutter flags. There are many opportunities now, and we need to explore before we press the go button.
David, quickly.
So I was just going to mention the some of the integration with other work, which was alluded to. So the National Park's lots of things, but fundamentally it's also a tourism brand, and driving that, it's important. So the whole brand work that you've seen here, this is a huge content driver of that. So, you know, it's used a lot to drive all sorts of hospitality and tourism. And the other thing that's important is the port plan that you saw. In fact, you had an update on that as well last week, I think. So the growth of our ports, green shipping, obviously a lot of the defence stuff, and cruise are all linked to this. So, and that's kind of the beauty of our National Marine Park is, you know, it does have a naval base, and it does have 4 ports, and it does have a large cargo proposition, and people are paddleboarding, and it does have, you know, seagrass and seahorses and kelp beds, and that is the beauty. So I think it's a really good challenge about the storytelling, but it is utterly embedded. If you speak to Richard Allen, who was also here, I think, wasn't he? Talking about green shipping and the dredging and the connection in the Freeport, I think that's the beauty of it. It's not, there isn't those conflicts built in. We're managing them because that's where we started.
I should have declared an interest, I think, because I mentioned Plymouth Waterfront Partnership, and I do sit on the advisory board.
It's all on record, isn't it? But yeah, thank you. 3 more, conscious of time, 3 more, hopefully we can wrap this up. Sarah, Laurel and Josh, so yeah, Councillor Allen.
Thank you, Chair. It's a question really about how we're going to help all residents of the city to access these amazing hubs, projects, activities that are going on that are just going to bring so many benefits. So I'm just thinking congestion and parking already has enough pressures in the city centre. there's some information on bottom of page 13 about the pathways to the sea. Can you give a bit more detail about how transport to National Marine Park projects is going to be made sustainable?
That's a really, really great question. So as part of the Horizons bid, sorry to upset you, Chair, but there are net zero commitments as part of that. We have to show the lottery that we're taking very seriously. And so the kind of carbon accounting, is a really challenging but interesting part of the whole National Marine Park process. In terms of transport, we're very conscious that whenever you put on an event and you're encouraging people to travel from one side of the city to the other, there's a carbon element to that. But the National Marine Park team has been really innovative in the past at ways of doing that. And one of the benefits of having those business leaders like Richard Stevens on the board is that we've been in a good position to make those corporate partnerships that have been beneficial to visitors. So, for instance, for one of the events, we had, was it called the Shark and Ride? So that was 3 day riders, I believe, if you were travelling and getting off the bus specifically at that event space. So that rather than people travelling by themselves in a car, they had the opportunity to make the most of that so that we weren't clogging up parking and the emissions and air quality impact of that. But the team are really proactive in publicising these alternative modes of transport for people that are able to make the most of those.
Super quick supplementary. It's a shame that the Beryl bike hubs have been reduced, particularly in the north of the city. Are there any plans or any possibly alternative providers being consulted?
So that was a commercial decision by Beryl. So obviously they're a private company that we work in partnership with. And that was based on their data of usage. So some of those sites in the north of the city were being used less than 5 times a month. And so it wasn't, unfortunately, commercially viable in Beryl's eyes to keep them there. We lobbied as a council for them to maintain several of them, St Budo, Derriford, I believe, which are very, very instrumental to connectivity in those areas. But all of the ones around the waterfront have been retained. And actually there is the opportunity for us to continue to work with Beryl where there are popular sites that people are using to continue to do so. The thing with Beryl is the average journey time is around 15 minutes. And so people typically weren't travelling from Southway, from the far north of the city for a kind of half an hour bike journey in reality. But we see it much more commonly around the kind of wards in the centre and nearer the city centre, and it's really good that they're being well used still.
Brilliant. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to say I'm like a bit of a seagrass super fan. So the seagrass token project was really interesting. I don't want to take up too much time here, but I'm wondering if you have more information on that project you could send to members of the committee.
Yes, because there's a whole slide deck to look at in terms of the development of that token and where we're going to take it. So yeah.
Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Chair. Apologies, I was late. Much like Councillor Rainsford, a couple of declarations of interest are already stated, but I feel duty-bound to mention. So I'm a director of Plymouth Waterfront Partnership and also a director of Ocean OS, both working from the Sound. The piece that I wanted to say, though, was I was actually at a community meeting this morning because Kat mentioned Blue Sparks in St Budo, and the residents and locals there that were involved in that were really excited because they've actually had some Blue Sparks funding to run community events through the spring and into the summer. And that's the first of a series of interventions that are planned in that space, as I understand, which is really, really exciting. And they were quite literally buzzing, so it was brilliant.
Is there a question there, Josh?
There wasn't, I just had a declaration. I wanted to follow up on that.
All right, you've done this before. You've done this before, Josh. Leader.
Yeah, just a couple of things. I mean, on that gathering in St Peter, I mean, there's a real opportunity here with the Pride in Place funding. As you know, the government has given 20 million to St Budo and to Devonport, both the waterfront communities, and it would be brilliant if we could find a way in which Pride in Place funding could assist in more people from those areas getting involved in this. Something perhaps for local councillors in St Budo and Denport to consider if they already haven't.
Thank you, Leader. Funny you should say that. Actually, that was part of our conversations today, was how, you know, potentially, because obviously that Pride in Place board isn't formed as yet, applications are still open for it. But when that comes together, how that funding can be greater than the sum of the parts, so how it can work with funders that are already working in the area, the National Marine Park and others, to create more legacy, because, you know, that's what it's about, isn't it? You know, making, you know, really positive legacy, as the National Marine Park has done in the city now.
Brilliant. Really appreciate it. It's an annual update. Always particularly thankful when partners come in and people we work with. Elaine, thank you for coming in. Thanks for all your efforts. It's to be noted. We've fed into it and we'll review it again on the annual cycle. Thank you. So moving on to the pillars. We have pillar 4. If we can get them through, Hannah, that would be great. I'll wait for them to sit down. So we've got everyone here for the next 2 items.
Yeah, I think Hannah is the last person. But everyone, yes. We've all lined up, just culture and city centre intersect.
There is logic in what we do, David. It's probably best if you do introductions when we bring you in naturally, rather than. So, yeah, welcome everyone for the next item, Plymouth Economic Strategy. It's one of our pillars, civic pride and regeneration. Who will be taking us away? Will that be you, Councillor Lang? I assume so. Take us away and we'll go from there.
Thanks, Chair. I'm delighted to be here with the team to talk about civic pride and regeneration. It says here introduce team, but I won't do that. People can introduce themselves as they come in. Of all of the pillars within our economic strategy, this is the one that excites me the most. So it's a delight to be the Cabinet Member Champion. City centre regeneration is the focus of this pillar. But importantly, it's all about the intersection between the physical regeneration that's coming and cultural placemaking. At its heart, we know that people don't choose to live in buildings, they choose to live in places. And when we talk about places that are attractive and vibrant, they need a wide variety and a mixture of uses. And if I ask you to think about a city centre that you really love, that really attracts you and draws you in, it's not usually the fact it has a particular chain store or the price of the car parking. It's the architecture, it's the public realm, it's the green spaces, the food, the nightlife, the cultural scene, the sport. it's the general buzz and vibrancy of the place. And this in turn drives civic pride. And we've seen that very recently with the Beryl Cook exhibition and the wonderful sculptures. So it's brilliant that today we're talking about both City of Culture in the next agenda item and civic pride and regeneration, because they really are fundamentally linked. Since we started this pillar in 2024, there has been incredible progress, and I think I can honestly say it's beyond our own already very high expectations. So I'm just going to list some of it. We've signed a new long-term partnership with Homes England, who have so far made 2 large strategic investments in Bath Street and the Civic Centre, valued at over £33 million. Homes England have also made a number of strategic acquisitions in the city centre at north of Armada Way and in and around Mayflower Street. We've taken the Civic Centre back, and I think you had a tour this morning as a direct development, assembling over 36 million of external grants. And we're on track to complete the shell and core works by 2028. We've been shortlisted by the government's New Towns Task Force for our proposal to create 10,000 new homes in and around the city centre. We've appointed WSP to undertake a 12-month process of establishing a new city centre, a city living framework for the centre. This is going to be more than a traditional master plan. This is going to set out the framework for the place that we're seeking to create, and will be underpinned by 12 months of community engagement. And to cap it off, we are bidding for City of Culture, with knowledge and belief that it's culture that will ultimately unlock all of this investment. You'll hear more from the team in a moment, but I just want to say a few things about the significance of these 3 major interventions. Homes England. Plymouth has a long track record of delivery in the city centre. TRP, Drake Circus, the Barcode, the Box, the CDC, but it's only with long-term partnerships like we have with Homes England that we can make the step change. I'm so grateful they've come alongside us and put their money where their mouth is. In the past 18 months, we've hosted their main board and executive board, and their CEO has attended cabinet. The Civic Centre, the ability of the team to move so quickly to take this project back and raise a £50 million funding package is a real testament to their skill. But the project is so much more than the 144 homes. It's secured funding because it will be market making, reintroducing excuse me, city living back into Plymouth city centre for the first time since Abercrombie zoned it out. New towns. This is an extraordinary achievement just to get shortlisted. Our assessment recognised the quality of our vision, our creativity and track record in delivery. And it's important to say that whether we get a new town designation or not, the plan remains the same. It's simply a matter of scale and pace that the new town brings. And the City Living Framework. In the consortium led by WSP, we've appointed a world-class team led by Jim Coleman, who's head of economics at WSP, Alex Ely, a Sterling Prize winner and housing advisor to the Mayor of London, and Glenn Howells, who has led the major master plans for Birmingham City Centre over the past decade, and City of Culture. I just want to reiterate, none of this works without culture. Culture is like the power station driving the city centre regeneration. It's the spark that makes everything else make sense, and you'll hear much more about that later. I hope this gives you a sense of where we are, and I think Scrutiny's ongoing involvement in the City Living Framework will be really, really important over the next 12 months. So now I think I hand over to James Mackenzie-Brown.
James, welcome. Always good to have partners and people we're working with closely, as I always say. Just, I know sometimes people are new, so yeah, just turn your mic on when you're speaking and when you're not, turn it off. So thank you.
I think it's on. It is. Hello everyone, I'm James. I often say I've got the best job in Plymouth because I'm Chief Executive of Theatre Royal. I think I really do, and it's a real pleasure to be here this afternoon. Thanks so much for inviting me. We really firmly believe that culture plays a really significant role in the life of this city. And as Jemima said, so often culture has been the driving force behind what makes Plymouth a great place to live, work and visit. We're really immensely proud at the Theatre Royal Plymouth that this past year we just calculated that we've had the highest economic impact ever in the life of the city. So we normally contribute around £40 million a year to the local economy. The year just gone, that increased to 53.3 million. That's got a lot to do with what we put on our stages, and it will make good sense that if the Theatre Royal is busy, so is Petersfield Express, so is Dunya, so are all those other restaurants and bars that are around us, and that's a really, really important part of what contributes to the success of Plymouth and its wider nighttime economy. Over 15,000 people a week come through the doors of the Theatre Royal. And in addition to that wider, the economic impact that I've mentioned, we know that we contribute around 10 to 15,000 bed nights a year to local hotels, B&Bs, and people staying in digs. So it's a really, really significant impact that we're having. I think over the course of the last 12 months, the way in which we collaborate has just grown and grown and grown. You will have heard over the course of the last few weeks the incredible statues that we've put in place to represent Beryl's characters around the city. That is a really brilliant collaboration between the Box and TR2, our production and learning centre at Catdown. Really goes a long way to demonstrate the ambition that we have for the role that culture plays in the city. I think I'm going to hand over to Victoria.
Thanks, James. So I'm Victoria Pomeroy. I'm the CEO of the Box. I think I've met all of you previously, but just really wanted to run on from that and mention briefly, and we presented to you, I think, last summer, that we had a social and economic impact report for the Box, which reported that we had more than 1.1 million visitors, which is incredible, and also that our economic impact put £240 million back into the economy. But also, and this for me is one of the key statistics, 13% of our audiences have never been to the Box or any form of cultural organisation previously, which suggests that we are getting to those communities who might not have previously visited a museum gallery, which I think is great news. And building on that, Beryl Cook, Pride and Joy, which opened just under 2 weeks ago, has gone stratospheric. We are, seeing the Beryl bounce, Beryl mania. We are absolutely packed with visitors, which is absolutely how it should be. But people are loving the paintings and Beryl's story and Beryl's relationship with this city. So that sort of real sense of pride in place. And it really demonstrates that when you find the right artist or the right exhibition, that you can bring so many people into a shared space, and that those people are just having the time of their lives, whether they're 5-year-olds, 55-year-olds or 95-year-olds. So I feel really proud that we've been able to work with Beryl Cook's family, who are still based in the city, but also with James and colleagues at TRP and TR2, and also with our colleagues at Cast. And Cast is a gallery space in Mill Bay. They are hosting at the moment an amazing exhibition looking at Beryl's legacy on younger generation artists. So do go and see that show, because it really gives a sense of what an influential individual Beryl Cook has been. This is a woman who was a self-taught artist and made her life's work really about Plymouth. And just really to talk on an ongoing way about impact, I think the Box has done, as you've heard me say before, a huge amount in terms of changing perceptions about place. And we are working with with national media outlets on a regular basis. For Beryl Cook, we've seen interest from BBC in terms of the One Show, national news in terms of covering the sculptures, Front Row as well. So we are really using what we have, our cultural assets, to amplify and talk about Plymouth as a place, that place-making piece. And from next week, from the 14th of February, you'll be able to see an incredible portrait by Sir Joshua Reynolds from the National Portrait Gallery. We are the final place for tour of this painting before it goes off to LA. And this painting is one of the most valuable paintings which has been saved for the nation. We are talking about the painting in the context of Plymouth's incredible, rich and diverse history. We're looking at works by Joshua Reynolds, who of course also comes from Plymouth. And I think we just need to own that and celebrate that fact. And so Journeys with May will be another review, context of looking at Plymouth's incredible histories and really getting audiences to think about the role that Plymouth played in the global endeavour of the 18th and into the 19th centuries. So I just think the impact of culture, and we've got the report and I know you've all seen it, but you know, we keep making it and working with colleagues across the city, and the investment that comes particularly from the City Council, but Arts Council England too, really helps drive a cultural offer like no other. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. Hello, I'm Emma Wilson. I'm Head of Regeneration and Growth. So I lead the City Council's development team. So I just wanted to take you through just a few areas that we have within our focus at the moment. So I hope those of you who are able to go to the Civic Centre earlier today enjoyed your tour, and that you're able to get up to the 14th floor and see the amazing views that we have and the opportunity that we have with the redevelopment of the Civic Centre. So as Jemima mentioned, this is a market-making opportunity which will demonstrate the appetite and the investor confidence in the build-to-rent market in Plymouth, which is a product that is currently absent from the market. As part of this, 144 homes will be delivered in the main tower. The basement and podium of the building will deliver a new blue-green skills hub for the City College Plymouth, which will activate the Civic Square, much as we do see on graduation days. This will support the skills investment needed for the maintenance and growth within the Devonport Dockyard, delivering up to 60 courses supporting around 2,000 learners every year. The Civic Centre project team, some who are here today, have made huge progress since taking back the site from Urban Splash. We've secured a £36 million grant funding package, including £18.4 million of investment from our government partner, Homes England. The full professional consultancy team has been appointed, and we've completed a full internal strip out of the building, including removal of asbestos to make the building safe for construction activity. Phase 1 works are currently underway, with the carrying out of structural investigations to inform the repair work that will be needed to the structure of the building. Alongside this, over 30 surveys have or will be carried out to get a detailed picture of what's inside and around the building, including the key service infrastructure. The next significant milestone for the project will be a submission of a detailed planning application and listed building consents, which will make another step forward in the redevelopment of this Grade 2 listed building. So this neatly leads me on to talking about the City Living Framework, which represents one of the most significant regeneration programmes Plymouth has undertaken in recent decades. It's a joint commission between the Council, Homes England and the UK Government, and it's a framework for us to look at how we can deliver 10,000 homes, new public spaces and a stronger, more resilient city centre economy. The programme is not simply a housing initiative. It's a coordinated city centre transformation strategy that brings together planning, transport, design, culture and placemaking. Its purpose is to create the conditions for long-term economic growth, increase investor confidence and improve the quality of life for all our residents. Scrutiny will understandably want assurance on our capability, governance and deliverability of this key piece of work. First, on capability, as has been mentioned, WSP have been appointed through a competitive process to lead the Commission. As well as bringing significant national expertise, which has always been touched upon, it is balanced with local expertise from LHC Design, Giuseppe Ianni, Levine Longsdale and Mackover Architects to ensure that the work remains grounded in Plymouth's identity and context. In terms of governance and programme structure, we have 3 distinct phases with clear milestones. So we're currently in phase 1, which is our discovery phase, which will run until March this year. It includes building a robust evidence base covering the city's current performance, challenges, opportunities and development capacity. This will include data gathering, site analysis and early spatial testing. Community engagement also begins here. Residents, businesses and community groups will input through surveys, pop-up events and co-design workshops. This ensures that the core vision is informed by public priorities from the outset. Phase 2 is our defining phase, which will run from April into early summer. This is where we will test options to refine the spatial options for the City Living Framework, the City Centre Master Plan and the supporting infrastructure strategy. Design reviews and scenario testing will check feasibility, environmental impact, financial delivery and alignment with wider council policies, ensuring that we have a holistic overview of the work that we are doing. The engagement, of course, continues, allowing the public and stakeholders to scrutinise and comment on draft proposals before they are finalised. It's really important this piece of work is something that is led with proper community engagement so that people are involved and not simply done to. Finally, phase 3 is our delivery phase, which will begin late August into the autumn time, which will produce the full technical outputs, detailed reports, 3D models, viability assessments, sustainability appraisals, and the engagement summary. So as I mentioned, it's really important that we'll be incredibly transparent about the You Said, We Did report, demonstrating how that community involvement has shaped the plan. And certainly the use of the 3D modelling, I think, will really help to bring the vision to life. These outputs will support the city's case for long-term investment, including the ambition for the new town designation, with adoption and implementation steps scheduled for later on in the November, December time this year. So finally, on assurance and risk management of this piece of work, we've got a formal governance structure in place, which includes a monthly programme board and quarterly strategic investment and regeneration board. The government structure will bring together key stakeholders across the city, including having oversight from our partner Homes England. Risk management is, of course, embedded into all of these phases, with work streams looking at viability, deliverability, environmental compliance, infrastructure capacity and social value. Early identification of constraints such as utilities, transport capacity and market conditions is built into the discovery phase to prevent delays later in the programme, so we ensure that what we achieve out of this piece of work is fully deliverable. The programme will bring substantial public value. It has the potential to unlock major private investment, strengthen the housing market, improve the attractiveness of the city centre and give residents a clear voice in shaping Plymouth's future. In summary, the City Living Framework is a well-structured, well-governed and nationally supported programme designed to unlock long-term regeneration opportunities for Plymouth. Work is currently progressing to plan and risks are being actively managed, and the expertise required to deliver a credible, high-quality framework is fully in place. Finally, this piece of work supports our New Towns proposition. We already have a Memorandum of Understanding with Homes England in place for strategic land acquisition supporting regeneration. However, the pace has been shifted, with Plymouth being listed as one of 12 potential new towns, creating a town in the city. The proposal is a compelling opportunity to transform Britain's ocean city with new high-quality housing to support the job creations through the investment of £4.4 billion in our naval base at Devonport. Employee attrition alone, for example through retirement, leads to the creation of 5,500 jobs needing to be filled up to 2035. These are not new jobs, simply through attrition. So what we have here is an important and exciting opportunity for the city to attract and retain skilled
Emma,
workers.
how much longer have we got?
One
I see you
last
turning
paragraph.
pages.
Through high quality homes in well-designed places. We've been working closely with MHCLG colleagues to refine the proposition and to understand the appropriate form and function that would underpin any new towns designation for Plymouth. Thank you.
Brilliant, thank you. I really want to get into questions.
That's quite
now.
all right.
It's been very extensive.
No problem.
Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for that thorough description, Emma. You've all covered so much, and it's all absolutely brilliant stuff. Firstly, could I say the Beryl statues, amazing, visited them on the weekend with my children, absolutely brilliant. The bit I wanted to get to was the economic impact of culture. 53.3 million is phenomenal. The impact of the box is phenomenal. Seeing these thousands of extra people moving into the city centre in the coming years is going to build that buzz, and it's going to be amazing. I guess my question is, you know, where's the ceiling on that impact of you as organisations? You know, and I'm hopeful that there's loads more that you're going to do, but are we going to need more attractions and more entertainment opportunities to residents and visitors alike? So hopefully an optimistic outlook.
It's a brilliant question, and your comment makes me think of something that we didn't perhaps talk enough about, which is that, yeah, we contribute extraordinary economic impact, and we've shared with you a lot of numbers, but the other thing that is equally important in my eyes is that what we do is bring people joy and make the city and the places that we live and the conversations that we have interesting and deep and meaningful. We all know in this room that when you talk to people about the sort of place that they want to live, it's where there's a place where there are things to do. To your point around, will we reach a ceiling? Will we have enough? I think we probably will, and I think the vision for the city centre and the care that's being given by officers and people like me in Victoria in jobs like ours in the city is that we know that we yes, we need to build all these new homes, but we also need to make the places in and around these homes attractive to live and work. I think I would also add to that, though, that we have to be really careful to protect the assets that we have and to not overly commit ourselves to doing a huge amount more. The assets that we have in our city are really extraordinary, the best in the nation. I would say the best in Europe, the best in the world in some regard. But some of those assets are already tired and need a lot of investment. So yeah, I'm not sure we need a huge amount more. I just think we need to probably encourage everyone that lives in the city and might be new to the city to enjoy what we have.
Supplementary, Chair.
I think Councillor Lang wanted to come in there, so I'll let her respond.
I just wanted to add in around the city living framework and the conversations around Team Plymouth, a reassurance that culture and livability is in right at the beginning of those conversations. It's not kind of something that we're going to come to at the end and go, oh gosh, all these flats and all these homes, these incredible buildings. Oh, but what are they going to do? It's part of the conversation right from the start, which I think is the right approach, and it's not an approach that everybody takes on these kind of developments, but it's a kind of reassurance for this board that it's been taken very, very seriously about what makes a place somewhere that people want to live beyond offering accommodation.
Thank you. And my supplementary, Chair, was, you know, will City of Culture really help scale out everything you've spoken to us about today, please?
Yes, it's a quick answer. I think, you know, City of Culture is such a great opportunity for this city at this moment in time. And because we've got the defence deal, the housing, the rethinking of the city centre, a vision for a long-term future, then I think City of Culture becomes even more critical and important for us.
Well, we'll be getting into that on the next bit, but things do link up, I understand. Councillor Rainsford.
Thank you, Chair. Brief observation that all of the data in here does go to show that if you have something else to bring people into a city centre or a town centre or a high street, your shops, cafes, restaurants will thrive, and we won't suffer in the same way as some other parts of the country are. I'm sure David's got a view on that in terms of the empties. My question, though, is about MHCLG and the new town's designation. And I should declare a historic interest here in relation to the panel that did the work there. Have we had a timeline from MHCLG as to when we can expect an announcement or a statement in House of Commons about the designations? And my second question is, how prepared are we? Because we're talking about city living framework, and it's obviously shaping up really well. But are we already thinking about that if we get designation, how does that framework fit into what a development corporation might want to do?
Shall I have a start to that? So I can tell you about the technical assessment of our bid and less the politics, because obviously there's a political decision that will run in parallel, and really the timeline of that will be determined obviously elsewhere. So we have a couple of things going on. MHCLG are doing their own assessment, which is a sort of planning-based assessment, which is underway, and that will take a few months. And we've also just undergone an assessment, an external assessment, it's called a gap analysis, which is based on, it's been done actually by CBRE, which affects its mark in our homework, and really looks at what evidence base we have, where the gaps in that evidence base, and is really testing, could we get to the threshold of submitting a Treasury business case, which is the method, very similar to a Freeport. Treasury business cases, the Freeport one had 40 appendices, just to give you a sense, a serious endeavour. So the piece of work we're doing at the moment is we're getting on with the city living framework. That answers a significant number of the questions, but not all of them. Then there is pieces of work we have to do where we have gaps in the evidence base that are required to complete the business case. So we're kind of aiming for that business case to be submitted subject to the kind of whatever political decisions will run in parallel by this time next year. The Development Corporation is part of that business case, or whatever model we do, and we're certainly open to all those models, but have to go through a proper assessment of those models. Development Corporation is one, other possibilities are available, and the process will look at all of those. The Development Corporation itself has a timeline, sort of a minimum of sort of 15 months and a maximum of 36 months if you started from scratch. So I think the really important thing, I think it was something that Jemima said, is that our vision here doesn't change with the new town. We are going to do this. We are committed to creating a new town. What the new town is a prioritisation mechanism from government. It's an opportunity to accelerate. And we think, and you'd imagine we would say that, that the combination of this baked-in demand from Team Plymouth, which underpins the residential, this kind of cultural moment we've got, we think we're an incredibly compelling proposition from government, and it's a city centre. So, if you're going to unlock a housing problem nationally, you have to unlock regeneration sites. It's not just about building on green fields. So we think we're really, really well placed. We've pitched very hard into the process what we think we can do up to 2029, and then what we can do beyond. And that's in many cases based on, this is our advantage, almost 2 decades of pipeline, land assembly, strategic plans. So already with the joint local plan and now the local plan we've already got a lot of capacity embedded in. Some places don't have that capacity, they'll have to go through a process. But if we want, what the new town will give us is a sense of ambition and acceleration that I don't think without, it's the same plan, but I don't think it's got the same trajectory. So, we're really, really hopeful that we'll get the next, but if not, we'll crack on and work with Homes England, and we'll take our city living framework, and that document's the key document, whatever the route. So that, in terms of scrutiny, focusing on the city living framework and getting involved in that is really, really critical.
Thank you. Really detailed answer, and I have to say I'm really impressed by the team that's been put together by WSP, isn't it? A lot of knowledge.
May I just comment on that, team? Sorry, Chair, through you, but we've really gone out of our way to inject some thought leadership into this, because we understand that this is the whole point. This isn't just about buildings and bricks and mortar. This is about how you make places and the sorts of places you make. So building a place is so much more than just building a cinema or a building, or it is all about the identity, the communities, the evening nighttime economy, and the two architects and the master planners who've got involved. One is still in prize winner advisor to the mayor in London, and the other who's really tackled some of the most entrenched problems in city Birmingham, which is what problems we have, but on a whole different scale, in the sense of an inner ring road. The Civic looks very similar to the Rotunda. So we've got an incredible team, which I think should give you all a lot of confidence.
Thank you. I want everyone to be heard, and just conscious of there's a lot of questions. If we can all of us collectively ask them quickly and answer as succinctly as we can. Councillor Sprosden.
Thank you, Chair. Plymouth can generate huge projects and do fantastic deliveries, but it doesn't always grab the attention of the community. And when we talk about Beryl Mania, I think we've done just that. My dad living in Wales asked me if I've been to the show, and I hadn't even put anything or talked about it to him. And even walking here, there was people queuing to have selfies with the statues. With that in mind, with the Theatre Royal and the Box being powerhouses in culture in Plymouth, the general excitement that the community has been overwhelming. So I'm literally on a kind of personal point here. I'm wanting to know, are we going to see more of this kind of collaboration? Because I think on a kind of CSR thing, there's such happiness and excitement in the city about this. And I've seen no end of selfies from all my friends changing their Facebook socials with it all. I just think it's been a fabulous collaboration. And frankly, I'm asking for myself and others, are we going to see more of this?
So, short answer, yes. I think, collaboration is really, really important, and we collaborate all the time, not just in the city, but beyond the city. And James can give you good examples of collaborations with national and international partners. The Box has collaborated recently with the British Council, and we collaborated with the gallery in Gdansk. So collaboration is very much part of what we do. I think going back to Beryl, I think we have learnt a huge amount from programming Beryl. We knew it would be a popular show, but actually we've hit the zeitgeist, and it's all about thinking what's coming up and how can we be on the top of the curve rather than trailing behind. So yes, we just have to have those creative impulses and make those magic moments for all of our communities right across the city and beyond.
Thank you. We have Councillor Bannerman.
Thank you, Chair. I won't talk too much about how proud I am what you guys have done. You've heard it. Everyone's sung your praises. It's amazing, and you are bringing that joy, James. You really are. My question is really about the new town. So when you all enjoyed your climb to the top of the Civic, I sat in another room and enjoyed some understanding about the Civic. We talked within there that in the college area that we haven't really considered early years childcare. So I was thinking that actually within the wider town proposal, what are considerations for early year childcare? If to enable me to go to work, I need to make sure I've got somewhere to send my child. For somebody to deepen their social, economic, and go to college, they need somewhere to put their child. So where is that consideration?
I'll let perhaps James and Emma talk about the programme, but I mean that you've just described exactly the conversation. It's not enough in creating a place to just build the buildings. You have to think about the whole, and that's the difference between a living framework, I think, and a master plan. So it's a major part of Team Plymouth as well, because if you're going to expand your workforce, you can't do that without accessing people like you in that example or others. So, I mean, I don't know if you're able, James, to talk about where that might be picked up within the programme, particularly over the next 12 months, but it certainly will be in there, the facilities. But do you want to add anything about our programme? Sorry, James, Stuart, apologies. I meant Stuart, but I said James. I'm just sorry, having a moment. Sorry.
No. So there is a whole work stream under City Living around infrastructure, and so that was not just the physical infrastructure like utilities and things. It will be the social and community infrastructure as well. So what do we need in healthcare? What do we need in education provision? What do we need? Et cetera, et cetera. So that will be a work stream in its own right, and the baseline analysis at the moment is just trying to get a picture of where we are now, where the pressure points are, and then when you add in a projection of a population increase, what do we need to invest in and where? So that's a piece of work that's undergoing, just so we make sure that, as David's alluded to, and the New Towns Task Force made really clear that it's about placemaking. They set out a series of placemaking principles that that should frame the whole thing, and we're very much working to that and aligning City Living to the placemaking principles.
Councillor Gosling.
Thank you very much, Chair. So visitor numbers to Plymouth have basically remained flat since COVID and haven't recovered since their pre-COVID visitor numbers. The targets published in this report indicate a 50% increase in visitor numbers over the next.
Jeremy, I am conscious that there is an item after this on the whole visitor situation. Do you want to leave it till we'll do it now? But if everyone can,
is it the same people?
No, it's the next.
It's the people behind. In which case, I withdraw my question.
It's okay. It happens.
Don't forget.
It happens. You've given them a heads up, Jeremy. You've given them a heads up. They're ready. Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Chair. And I'm so sorry. I hope you forgive me. I have two questions because it's a really important agenda item. So first of all, James, I think you're right. I think you do have the best job in Plymouth. I think your main competition comes from Victoria. And I think we're so lucky to have two incredibly brilliant and passionate people at the head of our cultural offering in Plymouth. I wanted to pick up on actually something that you had brought to the last time that you were in Scrutiny, which was around the energy prices that you had viewed in Theatre Royal Plymouth. Culture is something that's so important that we get right. I also know it's really perilous, particularly after COVID, and it's really important that we support these institutions, particularly as we've seen kind of some of the grassroots venues like B-Bar is unfortunately dropping away, and Bread and Rose is in real trouble. So I'm wondering if you can just paint a little bit of the picture on how Theatre Royal is in that sense, in terms of kind of have you seen those kind of prices stabilise? How is that going?
Thank you for remembering that, and you're right that last time I was here I reported that we were just very, very unlucky that our 3-year contract with our energy supplier expired right at the height of the increase in our energy bills. Went up by £600,000 a year. We take great pleasure in providing all the joy and bringing the best artists from around the world to our theatre, but running the business is immensely hard. I think those of us that work in the cultural sector have said it has never been harder. And we are constantly balancing the price of a ticket to come to TRP, doing deals with producers so that we retain as much income as we can in order for us to cover our costs. It means we have to make very difficult decisions about annual pay awards to our colleagues, difficult decisions about our costs. We, at best, break even. Sometimes we are running deficit budgets. But we are fortunate that people continue to come through the doors. People ask me all the time, how can I support TRP? They know we're a charity better now than I think lots of people have known for a very long time. And the answer to how you can support TRP is to come. It's that simple. In order for people to want to come, we need a really diverse programme, and that is my job. So finding the very best shows to come to Plymouth is really important. I have to be much more proactive in doing that now. There has been a risk over the course of the last 5 years, and certainly since COVID, that the really big productions that people will know well, the Hamiltons, the Lion Kings, the Disney shows, where we can really guarantee footfall will just not come further than Bristol. And that is because the costs for the producers are also so much higher. Everyone's being squeezed in every direction. So I am on a train to London advocating for people to bring their shows to Plymouth all the time.
Well, thank you for all you do, and I'm really excited to see Operation Mincemeat later in the year. Do you want me to ask my second question now or come back?
You know me well enough by now, Lauren. You can ask 3
Flow of
questions. If the
conversation.
flow's there, the flow's there. Carry on.
Magic. So I'm going to zoom out now from the cultural offering to look at the kind of city centre, the piece that Emma and Stuart kind of put forward so brilliantly. I think when we're looking at this massive city centre development, it is a really exciting opportunity, but it comes with it great risks as well. We want to make sure that we're not just building accommodation in the city centre. We really want to make sure that it is homes that people want to live in. And that, again, picking up on Councillor Bannerman's point, means kind of making sure that those services are at people's fingertips. So whether that's schools, GPs, dentists, public transport, green space. So Stuart, I was really pleased to hear that that's something that's really being strongly considered in those plans. To then pick up on the public consultation aspect of this, I'm wondering if you could share what the plans are, how often we're going to be going out to people, in what circumstances we're hoping to reach them in, because in order for this project to be a success, the public buy-in is, I think, the most crucial element to making sure that this goes ahead as we want it to.
Yeah, so the what we've tasked the consultants with, and the community and stakeholder engagement runs throughout the programme, as was alluded to, along with a social value theme. So there's a social value aspect to the commission. The route to procurement was through the Homes England technical framework, and so we are using the Homes England's social value kind of criteria, and we are kind of focused that on co-design of the proposals. So what they're doing at the moment, they are in kind of preparation mode, so they're writing the engagement strategy, and we'll look to sign that off by the end of this month, hopefully. So that's where they're at the moment, and that will be, we're expecting this early phase to be a listening phase, so it will be talking to stakeholders, it will be some form of survey. We don't want to go out cold and do another cold survey, so what they are doing at the moment through our engagement lead is tapping into lots of other surveys that have happened, asking similar questions about people's, you know, aspirations, etc. So they'll analyse that data before they go and ask the same question. And then we'll go into a programme kind of into kind of April through into the summer of the co-design workshops, and that will be a range of things, but that will all get articulated in this strategy, which will then, you know, we'll sign off. So we'll do the listening, we get into the engagement around the options, and then towards the end of the programme we will have the technical documents and we'll do a formal consultation, and that will be, the documents are out for display and any comment, and then we'll wrap things up after that. So that's what we're aiming to do, and like I say, the social value aspect of it is very much around co-design, so hopefully getting to schools, working with you know, other interested parties and other groups that are already active in the city.
Don't have I thought you had another one. Cool.
You said she could have 3.
She could have 3, yeah. Councillor Holloway.
Thank you very much for those presentations. My question is probably more of a reflective one. This is an item about civic pride and regeneration, and there's so much we can go into about the box and all these other things. But if I think about my childhood growing up in Plymouth, you know, the things that really gave me, cohort, a connection to the place that we lived was every Saturday morning, you know, you go and hang out around the sundial. You know, those wooden animals that got taken away, but very much looked after by the council wherever they went, I can't quite remember. You know, things like that. Part of the reason why the Armada Way trees was such a sort of, you know, an emotional moment for the city is because it's these sort of environments that really people feel connected with. And I guess when speaking with a number of residents who've seen the work and the announcements across the city centre, I have heard, you know, some, I don't think we've had any evidence to suggest this, but just reservations that is it going to sort of turn into a kind of corporate, soulless, very nice for a sort of PR corporate video, but is it, how is it really sort of lived in the place where the pre-teenagers of today will go and feel completely at home and loved in just hanging out on a Saturday morning in this time. So just sort of answer that, what does this, and I don't know if this is maybe more for Stuart and for Emma, but and I know the work that the Box and TRP do is really, really great on this stuff, but just how do we make sure those living spaces are genuinely in touch? And I know you've said engagement plan, maybe some schools, but just how do we get that special Plymouth quirk at the heart of all of this livability, this connection that Jemima was talking about?
I also hung out on those wooden animals and at the sundial. I think I remember seeing you there in 1992. Just really quickly, I think on to a number of the points that have been asked, a number of the questions that have been asked over the course of the last half an hour, I was thinking about the question about early years, about how we make sure that these cities, this city that we're going to rebuild is livable. I just want to provide a point of reassurance that people like me in Victoria are in a lot of the rooms, prodding officers to ensure that that it's remembered that these need to be places that people want to live in and people want to go to. Because Victoria and I get invited to sit in the rooms about the future of our city, we get to think things like, maybe the new early years city centre provision could have a complete creative focus so that all of those 0 to 5s before they went to school, maybe we could co-run it with the Box. I think you need to take some comfort from the fact that the officers and the councillors leading this work have invited a number of city stakeholders to contribute to ensuring that those questions that you have in your heads are being well represented.
I would add, I'm not here as the portfolio holder for city centre regeneration. I'm here as the portfolio holder for culture, and that's why I'm in these conversations as well. So I think it's the reassurance that James gave is correct. It's from the very get-go. This is about, we can talk about 10,000 homes, and yes, they've got to be homes, not flats or but if you don't have culture, creativity, livability in at the heart of it, then you're not going to do the things that you're asking for. So again, a reassurance, I'm part of it. Obviously, these incredible people are part of it. And just a reassurance about the wooden animals, they're in Devonport Park at Rootways, being enjoyed and looked after. And I'm amazed how much they come up still in people's memories of, and hopefully whatever is in the city centre will be something that in this room we'll be talking about in 30, 40 years with fondness and joy, going back to what James said.
David, quickly.
So I could just give you an example of that journey I've been on in relation to the Civic Centre. So we're talking to housing developers, as you'd imagine. So I went to Manchester and was walking around Homes England and a bunch of developers. And we went to 2 sites. I'm going to mention either of them because it would tell you who they are. But both was big city centre developments. And one was done by a large property company you'd have heard of. And the other one was a kind of a funky urban kind of housing company. And the funky urban housing company, the public realm was just, I wanted to sit in it. It was green. They'd started off with a small kind of community cultural collective that turned into a Mexican restaurant, that had turned into a making place, that had turned into a business, and it was thriving. Then next door was a similar version of it, a corporate version, which had a bit of granite public realm, and in the middle of it a table tennis table, and it was deserted and empty. And I think that's kind of what the New Towns is all about, and the City Living Principles is all about. And it you just clearly you're asking the right questions and you want reassurance because the UK's got this wrong. In multiple cities over the years, it's not just a problem. We've just done this over and over again, and that's I think what the New Towns is trying to do. It's trying to change the, what's happened in the UK is we can only have what we can afford or what's viable, and therefore you get the same thing, and that's why everything looks the same. So the New Towns, I mean, it is unapologetically recognising it needs a major public investment to kickstart the market and change things. So if I just take the housing for the Civic, and we've spoken, and some of you have the Tower, that's exactly what we're looking to create. It's a curated community. It's not going. We're not going to sell these house and walk away. This is going to be a build-to-rent product where it has to have a community curated for 20, 30 years. So that's all I can say. So that's what gets me up in bed in the morning. It's that difference, and I think we need to hold ourselves and our consultants through this next 12 months, because that's the test that you've all described today. That is the test. It isn't about, just large bits of open granite and buildings and no active. It couldn't be further from the truth. But it's a big challenge and a national policy one.
Thank you. That's a really great response. I think it would be good to pick up on as part of the consultation exercise, and I don't know if we can make this as a recommendation, that it's not just about the people who are living in those very livable things, but it's about the public spaces, the public realms that PL3, PL4, PL5, PL6, PL7, they're places where you want to come and be part of that rich, vibrant core of the city.
Taking Chair's prerogative about the flow, but I think this is important because we talk about homes a lot, but actually this is not a housing initiative. This is a placemaking initiative. So what we're also doing is wanting to make sure the retail is good and survives. We want the evening nighttime economy to be thriving and survives. We want it to be a destination, a centre of a city. City centre should be the centre of a city. So don't just think this is about, we did 10,000 homes or 7,000 homes, we tick the box. That's not it. And the conversations certainly I've been in have all been about the places we create and the legacy we create, not just for the residents but for the community. So it's the essence of it. And I think we should get the consultants at a point, the right time to come here, the consultant team, and speak to Glenn and Alex early. So we've done something similar with Cabinet. We'd like to do that and get you to have the chance to speak to them direct.
Councillor Smith.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to come back to the cultural offer and kind of follow on from a little bit from what Josh said about, do we need to do more? I mean, for me personally, I feel like there's been a gap in Plymouth's cultural and nighttime offer in terms of live music, and specifically that kind of mid-sized venue that we don't have that other places do. I'm going to a gig in Falmouth tonight for a band that I'm sure would come to Plymouth if there was a venue here similar size to the Cornish Bank, and go to gigs in Totnes and stuff like that. So, I feel like there is a little place that we're lacking there in terms of sort of completing the cultural offer that we've got. So I don't know kind of what your thoughts are on that, and where there's a place for looking into whether there needs to be, a purpose-built place for that in the city centre as we're moving forward. But that just feels like something that we're lacking. So keen to hear people's thoughts on that.
Glenn and I are sort of looking at each other because we probably both know the opportunity, but it needs some more. We think that the Guildhall is that opportunity, and that project is, as you heard from the Cabinet member, is sort of going through that opportunity to just make sure that we get that absolutely right. And I think that personally, that's the one we need to get behind now. As in terms of filling that gap, we totally agree with you. That sort of 1,000 to 2,000 venue, that's the thing we're missing in the ecosystem. Could not agree with you more. And I think City of Culture might provide us a slingshot and an opportunity to reposition ourselves in the music space. Who knows? But that's definitely an opportunity in the mix.
Yeah, and I know we're going to talk about City of Culture in a minute, but that is something that's come up in our conversations with communities around City of Culture. And also, I don't know if this is appropriate, but anyway, Councillor Smith has been announced as the evening and nighttime economy champion, because we realise that is an area that we really need to do more in and work out what support, and going back to James's point around what exists already and what support the businesses and venues that exist already need. And I think that's going to be a big part of Matt's role, actually, is identifying that support that is needed. But certainly music venues is a recurring theme that we need to work out what we do.
Yeah, thanks for that. It's a big issue for the country and for Plymouth, the hospitality sector at the moment, and keep seeing businesses, big name businesses that we love. Bread and Roses, B-Bar, the Walrus, and the list seems to continue on. And James, what you said was fascinating. What about your energy bill, 600,000? And could you just talk to us a bit more about what the state of the sector is, what your feelings are with the pubs and hospitality at the moment?
It's all connected, isn't it? I mean, that's the issue. I often talk about being in the business of getting people to go out, and it's easier and easier to stay in. It's just easier and easier to stay in. Everyone's got bigger TVs. All the best actors can be seen in high definition. You can press pause when you want a cup of tea. So what's so important is that here in Plymouth, we continue to put on the best work, the best exhibitions to encourage people out of their homes. We really know and feel very responsible for the hospitality businesses immediately around TRP. The Pizza Express is called Theatre Royal Pizza Express for a reason, because when we're really busy, they're really busy. And it really is all connected, and that's why a joined up evening economy is absolutely vital, because the weight of the responsibility that I feel for 20 to 30 businesses is really significant. So I want nothing more than there to be other places for people to go in the evening in Plymouth. You put nightclubs to one side, we're sort of different, but the nighttime economy in the city centre really is us at the moment. Yeah.
Lauren?
Thank you, Chair. Just to kind of piggyback on the back of that conversation, I think it's really crucial. We've had, I think it's 200 businesses in Plymouth close in a 3-year period, and that's like right across the sector. You know, some like Vodka Red's talking about the nighttime economy to like Miela's Bakery, House of Fraser, Pavers, the News Cafe, Hub Box. So like it's across the city. This is an issue that we're looking at, and I think. Chair, I'd like to suggest that potentially it's something we look at giving some additional attention to small businesses, perhaps through a select committee, so we can do some of that joined up thinking, look at where those gaps are and what support we as a council can start to offer, whether that's like meanwhile use, looking at options through licensing, just to think about it more creatively in a bit more of a kind of wide scope view.
I'm with you. We'll come to that towards the end. We won't forget. Josh to fit.
Thank you, Chair. Very quick one. Pick up on David's point. I really loved the example you gave of this kind of edgy, green, urban city centre space. And, you know, the master plan sounds fantastic. But I guess, you know, being a critical friend, I have to ask the question, you know, is there a desire and do you feel that we should be lifting the design code in the city when it comes to general planning, so that, you know, when we get to that point with the city centre, that we don't start to erode it on the edges?
Well, as the estates guy, I'm going to pass over to the planning colleagues to give you a more detailed answer, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important. Design is important. There is always a balance to be had, as you will know from planning committee, and we see things come through, and the months of negotiation you go through on viability. So we know that viability is going to be a real challenge for all the city centre developments, you know, and they are going to need some form of funding, some form of public sector intervention to even make them happen. But I think that shouldn't stop us aspiring to a real kind of high standard. But I think we're going to have to be realistic about how we deliver that. And you're quite right. I think I suppose just touching on the planning status of the work that we're now doing, what they will do is become evidence-based to the new local plan. So the standards that we set in here for design can well influence the preparation of the plan on the wider city centre.
Thank you. I think you know, that piece around architecture, and a number of you have spoken to that, it is important to our culture. And, you know, the more we can strive to get the best, the very best architecture, the best lived-in spaces, you know, I'm hopeful that will give us, you know, far more rewards in the future. Thank you.
Do you mind me? You wanted to come in?
I just wondered if I could come back on Councillor McClay's point very quickly, just around, I wouldn't want it to be all doom and gloom around the city centre. You know, the number of empty shops has gone down significantly in the last year, in 2025. And so there's definitely an argument around what support existing businesses need, people who are struggling, but there is also a story to tell about people who are choosing to invest in Plymouth and our number of empty shops have gone down quite significantly.
Yeah, I think it's the regular news stories on the hospitality pub sort of trade at the moment that's focusing our minds. Elliot, if you've got a video for it, if we could do that video, it gives us a kind of break between the next item. That'd be great. Surprise faces.
So shall I just, I don't think it's got a soundtrack, so shall I just perhaps gently narrate it? It's moving a lot faster than I remember. So, yeah. So you can see here the council house. I was explaining earlier, this is a Jellicoe listed garden outside. Here's some of the residential schemes, fleetingly, which are making use of those incredible views. New public realm outside the scheme, which links the Jellicoe garden into the civic public realm. Those incredible roof deck, we are keen to try and brand the civic somehow. I'll get maybe a planning conversation. All these reflection pools are refurbished and brought back to life, and you can see there's a little island in there. You see a new staircase behind connecting the college and the residential. New cladding, which is the kind of central point about the listing. The bedrooms are at the back, the living room space at the front, so light. We've also removed some of the 70s parts of the building that hid the kind of the UN style floating tower. So we're removing a lot of that stuff. This is the access from the college into the, I don't know if that's paused.
That's where their workshops, classes, where they can put out like solar panels. And
yes, this is the college on the ground floor. Moved again quickly. This and you can see, so the college occupies the lower ground and first floor. The residential's in the tower. And the college, we've got a big new light well going in the ground floor, so the basement will be light and activated. There's also be a restaurant on the ground floor. There'll also be some residence amenity space, and then we've obviously got the lounge and our aspirations for a restaurant on the top levels. I think that's it. So I mean, I think the design we've got for the Civic is fantastic. I really do, and I think our architect Mark Broad at BDP is to be applauded. I think it's elegant and really, really great design. So looking forward to see how. Obviously, won't be a matter for us, but how planning committee respond to that in due course.
Good spontaneous commentary, David. Thank you. There will be some natural overlap towards the next item, but really appreciate all your efforts on this particular piece, on this pillar, with the Civic really being what Plymouth should be all about if everything's done properly. It's exciting about everything that's going on with the box, with the Beryl Cook show. I mean, I think that that proper Plymouth stuff is what people really gravitate to, and this has hit the jackpot. I have personally found some of the things that have got a bit abstract and hard to get my teeth into and to get too excited about. But when it's real, proper history of Plymouth, Beryl Cook, it's been amazing, and I can't wait to go and see it myself. So thank you. So if we can, I'm holding that thought that people have raised, like Lauren suggested, we'll bring that at the end. But if we move on to the visitor plan and cultural update, that'll be great. James, are you leaving us?
I'm going. There's way too many of us, apparently.
Are you sure? You're welcome to stay, James, but if you need to get away, then... Because we might need you. I think the conversation flows quite randomly at times. Stay, James, please. If no one answers a question now, I'm in trouble. Or have you got somewhere to go? Oh, fair enough. Take it as a compliment, James. Are we okay? Is it dry over there? We do have these spillages. But brilliant, great to see you all. We'll be talking about city brand strategy, visitor and culture plans, which we did touch on in bits, but we'll get more into it as it goes on. Jemima, if you want to take us away, and then others will join in.
Yeah, bear with me if I have to have a cough sweet to get through it. So the purpose of the report we're sharing with you today is to provide an update to the committee on the work connected to the delivery of the city's visitor and culture plans and our new brand strategy. The report is in two parts, section 1, visitor plan and brand strategy, and then section 2 is the culture plan. 2025 has been an incredibly successful year on several fronts for Destination Plymouth, as well as the partner organisations it represents. Working with partners across the city, they've successfully led the reimagination of the city brand and creation of new brand strategy, narratives and visuals for the city, which I hope you've seen spring up all over the place. They're out on the hoardings out there, looking magnificent. And alongside this, they've started the transition from being a visitor-led to a broader city place marketing organisation, championing all sectors nationally and internationally. Many of the projects in the 2030 visitor plan are progressing effectively across all the different project areas, with some fantastic results which are highlighted in the report before you. The report demonstrates an incredibly successful year of delivery from all the partners involved, against the backdrop of considerable challenges, some of which we've already heard about today, for the visitor sector nationally, and those things are hindering growth overall. It's because of the strong performance of our city events programme, marketing activity and project delivery that we are holding our own within the region overall. Over the past year, we've seen some truly incredible moments which have highlighted Plymouth's uniqueness and been shared by millions of people on social media globally. I mean, we had a Rolls Royce in Tyneside, which was viewed by, and I checked these figures with Amanda earlier because they're so staggering that I wanted to check they were right. So in terms of reach, 596,356 million people saw that we had a Rolls Royce in Tyneside. Red Bull's The Mast event in the Barbican, Pirates Weekend was seen by 526,868 million people, and most recently in June, the Beryl Cook exhibition announcement seen by the reach was 382 million people. So the culture plan section of the report provides an update to the committee on the strategic work being undertaken by Plymouth Culture and our partners to deliver the objectives set out in the culture plan with specific reference to the City of Culture bid. The culture plan section of the report provides an update to the committee on the strategic work being undertaken by Plymouth Culture and partners to deliver the objectives set out in the culture plan with, I'm reading the same paragraph twice. The City of Culture bid represents a real opportunity for Plymouth to showcase our city and to meet our cultural ambitions to embed culture across the city in every neighbourhood, again, as we've already talked about in the earlier item. And whilst it isn't listed as an output in the culture plan specifically, it is a natural next step in delivering the culture plan objectives to increase engagement, to secure investment, and to position culture as a driving force for change and inclusive growth. And I just want to say around the City of Culture bid, it's the way I have kind of worked out whether I personally thought we should do it was looking at the process unfolding and imagining that we weren't in it. And I think at this moment in time, I would have found that really hard to watch other cities talking about and places talking about why they should be City of Culture. And if we weren't doing it, that would not have felt right to me. It feels like the right moment for Plymouth to be putting ourselves up to this incredible challenge. I'm incredibly excited about it, but I'm sure we'll get onto that later. But I'm going to now hand over to Paul.
Brilliant. Thank you, Jemima. So what I will do, and there'll be a little crossover, I think, in both conversations you've heard a bit earlier, and indeed what Jemima said. I'll give you some more detail to reflect upon. So I'm speaking in the kind of remit, I suppose, as the chair of Destination Plymouth, and I think the first thing I probably need to state is the new strategic remit that I think Jemima alluded to, and I think maybe you've heard this in previous conversations. So the strategic oversight of the brand strategy and the Plymouth plan is driven by a shared leadership and a shared delivery model led by the Board of Destination Plymouth. In 2023, we expanded our remit to become a broader city marketing and place branding leader, and our purpose is therefore twofold: to be the custodian of our city narrative, so Britain's Ocean City, and everything underneath that brand, improving perceptions for residents, visitors, students and investors. That was a primary investment of ours. To unify the activities of Plymouth Culture, the National Marine Park, the City Council and our business improvement districts into one coherent, high-impact programme. In terms of the brand impact and adoption, following 2 years of deep community engagement, our brand work launched in October 2025 to overwhelmingly positive media coverage. In just the first 8 weeks, over 200 people accessed the brand site, and our initial social media launch reached 200,000 views. Critically, the brand is being actively adopted by key city partners, and really happy to report on elements of infrastructure. It features currently, I think, on the new city bus electric fleet, and of course the hoardings, which I think you heard about earlier. We were just joking with Tudor, we thought it might be the world's largest civic hoarding. We'll take that claim. In terms of industry, Babcock have used the visuals for their Devonport Open Days. Princess Yachts have featured them in their 60th anniversary film. The University of Plymouth have used them for their visioning documents for the city, and Arts University Plymouth in their marketing materials and their campus wayfinding. In terms of culture, the brand strategy has underpinned the launch of the new City of Culture bid. Again, you'll hear more about that this afternoon, and I think there were discussions earlier. And also Plymouth Culture's new Creative Industries Plan, which was formally adopted by the City Council. In terms of marketing and place promotion, our proactive digital marketing and place programme has significantly strengthened Plymouth's position. The audience growth, which I think we alluded to a little bit earlier, the reach is quite significant. So the combined social media following for the brand has passed 160,000 people, with content seen over 41 million times. These are not insignificant figures. That's more than double last year's reach. If we think about web traffic, Visit Plymouth attracted 700,000 new users and 2 million page views. So there's something substantive going on in the new brand power. In terms of PR power, our public relations activity achieved a staggering, wait for it, 2.1 billion opportunities to see, with an advertising value equivalent of over £53.6 million. So again, significant numbers. Just a note now within the report on key partnerships. These relate primarily to two aspects of the work, not exclusively, but two primary pieces of work. One is the cruise work, which I think is detailed in the report, and the other is the Southwest Visitor Economy Hub. So a note on the 2025 cruise season, that was the best season yet. 15 ships, 15,000 passengers and crew, bookings already secured through 2029. And I think it's worth noting the significant contribution here of our cruise ambassador volunteers. So an army of people helping to drive that in the city. That's been part of the vital success of that project. On another side of the report, in terms of the data hub project, I think it's been called locally. So this is a more technical aspect. The Southwest Visitor Economy Hub is now fully operational. This £500,000 funded project is now commercially supported by all local authorities across Devon and Somerset, and provides the daily data we need to understand exactly how many people are visiting, how long they stay and what they spend. The Southwest Visitor Economy Hub was made possible thanks to funding by the former heart of the Southwest Local Enterprise Partnership as part of the government's Local Growth Fund, and the project was also part funded by the UK government through the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. So again, another good example of a resource now in action and producing some significant impact and data. In terms of skills and employment and the remit, certainly for the brand and visitor strategy, I think there's a sense that we're exceeding targets. Through a DWP-funded visitor economy coordinator, which was put in place, we've applied the successful Building Plymouth model to our sector. The results have significantly exceeded DWP expectations. And what does that mean? Well, of the 432 individuals who've been supported to date, in terms of prevention, 75 were non-claimants who received one-to-one help, preventing the need to claim universal credit. In terms of employment, we achieved 240% of our target, with 168 individuals progressing into employment against a target of 70. In terms of training, we hit 153% of our target for education and volunteering. And in terms of impact, overall, we saw positive outcomes for 76% of all claimants supported, when including social justice outcomes. This work is essential for addressing the sector's recruitment and the retention challenges therein. A note now on the competitive landscape. Clearly, if we're realistic about some of this work, national competition in this realm is huge. Core cities and major players are, certainly those with mayoral authorities, are pumping literally millions of pounds into place marketing to attract the same talent Plymouth needs for manufacturing, engineering and healthcare. To support our £9 billion regeneration pipeline, we must leverage our Britain's Ocean City brand. That seems clear from some of the data reported today. The narrative, absolutely, and a collective shout from all, including those present, on what we offer to accelerate the prospects for growth. Future priorities, certainly from a Destination Plymouth board perspective, will be to continue to transition from a primary focus on visitor economy towards a place-based marketing approach representing all growth sectors. The roadmap for that includes recruitment as part of the remit, and certainly in terms of the direction of the board itself, bringing in new directors to champion partner-led activities. In terms of investment, that would be encouraging both public and private sectors to invest in promoting and leveraging our city offer nationally and internationally. And in terms of engagement, it will be certainly focused on encouraging our stakeholders to use the narratives and identity that the city has created for itself. So just to close, a culturally vibrant destination attracts people to visit. We know that. We also want them to stay. And in the most part, for some, we want them to also to live here. We invite both the continued support, therefore, of the City Council, all the major partners who've championed the city's reputation, and hoping that we can build on the foundations that I think you've got in the report. I'll close there if that's acceptable.
Brilliant. Charlotte will be back, but I'll quickly do what I just saw then. Councillor McClay.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation. I want to pick up on the decrease in availability of short-term rental accommodation. I note that it's gone, we've lost around about 200, and to me that feels like a good thing. That means there's more homes in the hands of Plymouth residents who are living and working here. I did want to pick up on, is that kind of loss of capacity being met with other accommodation types? But also, are we giving any consideration to visitor levies or kind of tourist tax that are being kind of brought in and introduced elsewhere? I noticed that Edinburgh has theirs starting in July of this year, and it's also one of the powers that has been considered being given to kind of regional mayors under that new model, and whether we've done any mapping proactively ahead of that to see how it can contribute to our economy.
Yeah, thank you. That's a really great question. So some of the short-term rentals have disappeared, yes. So we know from AirDNA, which is Airbnb data, that they've gone down from about 700 to about 500. That is indicative of the current economic climate, where people are finding that, you know, our visitor numbers have dropped. One of your colleagues has previously mentioned that. That's a national thing. So for 2025, Visit England was forecasting a 7% drop in UK domestic staying overnight visits. And so that's indicative of people deciding that actually it's become too complicated and actually they'd rather have somebody in there for 12 months rather than short-term rental. So that's a sort of a natural thing that's happening in the market, but also the government is going to be bringing in fairly soon this year a short-term rentals registration scheme, which will be compulsory for anybody who has got a short-term rental. And there's current consultation going on with DCMS and the local authority here, as with others across the country, as to what the most suitable way to implement that will be. So that's a live process at the moment, and that is likely to deter more short-term rentals, because people who are getting away with, you know, not a very good product will be caught out, and they won't be able to function anymore. So that's that answer to that part. In terms of the overnight visitor levy, there is currently a live consultation which is being led by MHCLG. The consultation closes on the 18th of February. I'm just about to share a paper with Councillor Lang. Councillor Lang is fully briefed through the LGA Culture, Tourism and Sport Board, but there's been a lot of information in the public domain coming out to everybody. We have a draft consultation for Devon. We need to consider as a city what our position will be on that, so that's some of the conversations we need to have. There have been round tables with the Treasury, DCMS, MHCLG and all government partners. So the general consensus is this will probably happen. It's already been implemented in Scotland and in Wales. They have both made a mess of that, to be quite blunt. It's not working as it should do. And so the government's very keen to learn from that. There are already visitor taxes in place in some of the mayoral authorities, including Liverpool and Manchester, through bid levy legislation, through what we call accommodation bids, but that is still, the public is paying an extra £1 a night to stay in their hotel, and then the businesses are taking that. There are lots of questions around what is the best way to implement it, where should it be spent, should the funding be reallocated back, should it be collected nationally and reallocated back out locally. So far the overwhelming response to that is, well, we're doing devolution, so actually, you know, we should locally decide where we're going to prioritise spend from that. It is likely it will come in. The government has said it will bring in legislation for the strategic mayoral authorities. They have also said they will look at legislation for the foundation strategic authorities, of which Devon County Combined Authority is one. Plymouth is not. We are not an FSA. So the question back there is, if you are going to put legislation in for those authorities, should you not put legislation in for all authorities, so that it's not an unfair playing field and that we're disadvantaged? And then the final question there is, where should that levy money be spent? And of course, we'll probably come on to a conversation about funding, but actually, if you want to, successfully grow your city's reputation and stand out amongst the competition, you need to put funding and resource into that. And so that might be a mechanism where you might say, well, we'll take some of that to do that more effectively, and then we'll decide locally where we allocate some of that other funding. And it could go into a whole range of different things, from cultural programming to infrastructure, etc., etc. So hopefully that answers that.
Supplementary in the back of that, Chair. Thank you, Amanda. That was really helpful and really thorough. I wonder if we could take away some action for us to be kind of kept up to date as this scrutiny on the actions of that kind of consultation. I did want to come back on that decrease in short-term rental, whether that capacity has been met in the hotel market or whether we're at a net loss of those 200.
Apologies, sorry, I overlooked that. Yeah, we're not meeting capacity. We need more capacity in the city. Demand is outstripping supply, and an example of that was the week before last, where we unfortunately had to evacuate our colleagues to the Moxie Hotel, and they couldn't get anybody into the Crown Plaza so they were full, 160 rooms. They couldn't get anybody into the Crown Plaza because it was full. and we're consistently running at over 80% capacity all year round, and even in January we're running at over 65% capacity, which is really high. So we desperately need that in order to support our business economy, because a lot of our demand over, particularly this time of year, is absolutely business led. It's Monday to Friday, it's not weekend leisure. And we also need that reputationally, because big businesses want somewhere to do business. They want that supporting infrastructure. So it is something that we need to look at, yes.
Councillor Gosling.
Thank you very much, Chair. Very much telegraphed question coming up. So as I stated previously, so we've had flat visitor growth over the last 5 years, even though we've introduced attractions to the city which have been proposed to increase visitor numbers, such as the introduction of the box, Plymouth Marine Park, and yet visitor numbers across reported visitor numbers have been flat. We have a target. You have included the target here of 6.2 million visitors in 5 years. That's a 50% increase in visitor numbers to Plymouth. Is that target achievable? And if you believe it is achievable, how do you intend to achieve it?
Thank you. That's a really good question. So those targets were set in 2018, 2019 when we went through the consultation process for the current visitor plan. And of course, that was before COVID. And they were predicated on the level of growth that we had at that time, and also on our hotel development pipeline, actually, in terms of what was in development at that time. So the whole world has changed since then. So we're just over halfway through our plan. So we need to review those targets and revise them in line with what we believe will be a suitable forecast expectation for us up to 2030, but it is going to be less, and the whole region is seeing that. So to put that into context, last year Cornwall was 12% down, Devon was 10% down, Plymouth was 5% down. Now, what we're doing is we're really, really successfully attracting day visitors to the city. So 87% of our visitors are day visitors. That has gone up. It was 85%. It's gone up. So we've been really good, and that's partly a really good reason for having cultural programming, events and activities to bring those regional visitors in, particularly during the on-peak season when we have millions of people coming down to Devon and Cornwall on holiday. They can't all stay here, but we can bring them in as day visitors, and they will spend in our cafes, our restaurants, in our attractions, in our retail. So nearly 40% of visitors cite retail as a key thing that they spend money on when they actually come into the city. So it's a real ecosystem. So we need to revise our targets. They won't be that high. I think the world has changed, obviously, since COVID, and in the current economic climate, obviously people are not spending as much. They're not having as many domestic holidays in the UK, and of course we're the same as any other destination. We are impacted by that.
Quick follow-up. So what would you think is a feasible year-on-year growth model, or is it a purely static growth model for the future of Plymouth visitors over the next decade?
We need to model it. So now, sort of halfway through our plan, is a time when we would naturally review the strategy, because we keep an eye on a rolling basis. We keep an eye on delivery and projects and outputs, and some of the projects in the plan have already been delivered, which is fantastic. But yes, we need to review it, we need to forecast it, and come back with an accurate number, and that will probably be later on this year.
Thank you. Yeah, following up from Jeremy there, yeah, we've got that on page 70, the annual growth rates, which Jeremy's right to say we've flatlined, but how are we flatlining? Because 2016 it was -2%, and now we're back down to -2%. How do we get into minus figures?
So if you look at the visitor growth trends, you'll see that we had really good growth up to 2019. Yeah, so we met up to 2019. We met our visitor targets and expectations. We then had COVID, where obviously the whole sector was in economic shock, really, in crisis. So we have consistently started to creep back up, and in fact, there was a peak in sort of 2021-22, which was the sort of post-COVID bounce back effect, where everybody sort of went bonkers and went on holiday and did all sorts of stuff because they decided they were going to live wildly after COVID. So that happened, but then since then, the economy has hardened. And what we've seen is we've seen that impacting nationally. So our figures are no different in trend terms to that national picture. And as I said earlier, actually we are holding our own within the region in terms of the numbers of people that we're attracting in.
Yeah, what's the kind of mechanics of getting these when we get into these big figures? I always have a sceptical head on about how we get there. Who calculates these figures? Like on this chart? Who puts that together?
So so you've got a couple of different sets of numbers in there. You've got our annual Cambridge Economic Impact Model, which is a model that we've been running for the city since 2008. That is what it says. It's a model. So what we do is we commission South West Tourism Research, who act as an observatory, a data observatory for the region, to do that annually. And what they do is we make adjustments based on the numbers of accommodation that we have in the city, things like new hotels, new attractions, and also the number of events that we have, even things like the number of student beds and student accommodation. So that model is run on an annual basis, and that gives us our annual long-term trends, and that's what it is. It sort of shows us something over a period of time. There's another set of numbers in there, which is from the Southwest Visitor Economy Hub, which is shows our overall footfall. So that is not just visitor footfall, it is overall footfall into the city. And that's based on BT footfall data, which is live data that we get from BT. And that shows us we have a number of different places across the city where we track that data. And what that shows us is not just the footfall on any given day, but also it shows us actually where those people are coming from, because we can track the IP address for the phone. So the two are not to be confused, because one is more lifetime data, which we use with the bids to see what footfall is coming in and out, but it shows actually that year on year we've had good positive footfall coming into the city overall. So again, that's a positive for us.
Thank you. It's good to know. I am just a bit surprised how far behind we are the rest of the southwest and Plymouth, and England generally, and the southwest. But it is what it is. Sticking to page 70. So I'll just read you this line. Restaurants, wet-led beverages businesses. I don't know who came up with that term. Very strange. Including pubs and short-term rentals, seem to be the worst hit, with 25 businesses closing between 2024 and 2025. Could you expand on that and why that's happened and what we're doing to improve things?
So that's data, that's what we call standard industry classification data, which we've just been working through with our colleagues in the economic development and inward investment team. So basically that's a set of data, a series of data sets which shows us how many businesses we have in the city under the classifications which relate to the visitor economy. And what we've done is we've run a model over the past 5 years, and what we can see is that over the last 18 months we have lost businesses in different codings, and some of those businesses are pubs, which, I mean, you mentioned some of the pubs earlier, restaurants, we've lost the businesses in the short-term rentals are actually not included because actually they're not captured because a lot of them are not actually businesses. So that's just to demonstrate what we already know, which is there's a wider economic impact affecting our businesses, and that's data that the government provides. So,
thank you for that. I mean, it's topical debate at the moment with that sector. It ties in with what James said, which was fascinating. He said it's never been harder for the sector, and then when we see figures like that, it kind of tells a narrative. Councillor Rainsford.
Thank you, Chair. My question's actually about employment and skills, and I was obviously very pleased to hear about the 240% uplift in terms of getting people into work following support. That was part funded by the DWP, I think, who supported a specific worker. Is that money ongoing, or are we going to lose that grant? Because it's obviously money well spent.
thank you, Councillor Rainsford. We think it's, and DWP think it's been a really good case study in how you can focus in specifically and help people who are claiming benefits to come into employment, and also to reduce their they can phase back into more hours of employment and not completely come off benefits. So there's been some educational work there. So this role is funded until the end of this year, and then the funding will cease. Emma Hewitt and Tina Brinkworth in the PCC Skills and Employment team have been fantastic, and it's been a real sort of partnership. So we have a sector skills advisory group which is chaired by Pete Adams from the Moxie, and we have all of the employers sort of around the table, and so what we do is we look at what do they need, and then the skills coordinator works with the DWP team in the job centre, and what they do is they work hand in hand to try and meet the requirements of the individuals to help them get back into work, but also of the businesses, to encourage them to take people on, to help support them, to provide opportunities. So we have English Tourism Week coming up third week in March, and we have a whole programme of activity which is working with local employers, bringing potential candidates in to do sessions in those different organisations, whether it's the National Marine Aquarium or it's the hotels. We're really pleased with it, and we will be trying to seek, along with Emma and Tina, we will be trying to seek funding to try and continue that if we can.
Thank you, Chair. That was an answer, thank you, that I needed.
Brilliant. Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Chair. Oh, that was spooky, wasn't it? I think just picking up on some of the questions that have been raised, we've heard around sort of trends and things like that. My personal interpretation would be that Plymouth has weathered the storm very, very well. I think the interesting metric to look at alongside the data and the tables you're looking at is what's invested in destination marketing organisations across the country. And when you actually look at what's invested and when you look at the return that Destination Plymouth gets, it's not just average or good, it's outstanding. And I think that's really important to remember. The value that is achieved is phenomenal. Going on to my question though, so I think part of that piece leads into sort of thinking nimbly and looking at how you can derive the most impact and reach creatively. And, stood on a swimming platform at Tyneside watching a Rolls Royce get craned in was phenomenal and actually very surprising because I didn't know it was happening that day. But it was brilliant. I think, going to your metrics you discussed, Paul, they're phenomenal. Please by no means take this as undermining them. But, when we look at PR average value equivalency, that's an older metric that comes from the world of newspapers and looks at, how many people read a newspaper, or is it 3 in a household? So it's more fallible. I guess. I mean, they're no doubt really big numbers. They are very good indicators. But for me, the one that's really interesting is video. And you can see direct impact from the video and the propositions that you're putting out through social media. So I guess my question is, seeing the impact that's making, are we going to see more investment in video production, video provision from Destination Plymouth in the coming months and years? Thanks.
So the short answer is our ambition is to go that direction, and the marketing events team at the council here, we've been working closely together, and over the last 2 years we've brought skill sets into the team of people who are able to create digital reel-based content, and in fact we are doing that more and more and more, and actually providing that as a service for some of our sort of partner and member businesses to say, look, actually we can help you as well. So we sort of provide that as a service to them. But that's definitely the direction of travel, and what we'd like to do is, and we are looking into how we get the funding to secure this. What we'd like to do is really revisit our whole sort of our digital shop window, if you like, for the city, and really look at how can we become world class in terms of our digital shop window and where people land into when they first, because of AI search, people are not going to websites so much, but you still need an AI presence, and you need to make sure you've got the right presence. Sorry, I'm going off on a tangent, but yes is the short answer. Paul's obviously wanting to come in.
I'd just ask a supplementary before you come in on that, Paul, because I think you might pick up on this as well. So I think what's really important about the video is you've talked around sort of local tourism, and that's what's helped Plymouth weather this storm very, very well. But actually that video content is something that's going to connect locally much quicker and much faster. So that's why I believe there's that strength. So I don't know if you can speak to that, Paul.
Well, I mean, I agree with everything that's been said, but I think one of the key things is organic content. So video, of course, is something that can spread like wildfire, literally. I think we're on the cusp of that. I think the difference here is the changing remit for the organisation and which way it's facing. So you could argue about the regional, but also there's an international aspect to this, and of course, some methods like film or social media content, of course, cross the globe instantaneously. So I think we're on the sort of threshold of understanding that better, but certainly it's going to feature much more prominently.
Thank you. I think there's that piece. It's the natural content that's generated from the community, which is really, really powerful. But actually, when you look at the brand revision and the video content that came out for that was very high class. And that's that piece that then speaks to what you're saying about international visit and actually selling as a destination. Because if you have that really high quality content, people can't miss how amazing this place is.
And I think if I can just add one thing, I think the brand was entirely designed to be owned by nobody, but by everybody. And I think that's the key to its success, I think. Yeah.
Councillor Bannerman and then Councillor Sproston.
Thank you, Chair. I suppose the first part of this question kind of runs into what Josh was saying about that social reach and how we're utilising it. And in your report, you talk about curly gas. So get on, boys. And he has got a massive reach, and he won't be the only influencer in Plymouth. And how are we utilising the social media skills of our population to reach people, for one, and how do we use that social media and that reach to really tell the story, to see the pride that we've got in Plymouth. I think that we've all talked today about Beryl Cook, and there's some wonderful AI videos of the statues actually dancing with people. They're amazing. So how are we kind of utilising that within our City of Culture bid, and how are communities engaging with that, and what is their response to this culture bid?
Chair, can I just say we've got Hannah here, and she is ready to give you that City of Culture update when you're ready for it. It's part of this session. I think given we want to get the EOI in by Sunday, I think it is, we'd really like the opportunity just to have 10 or 15 minutes on that before you finish.
Wow. Well, I
sort
think
of
that was a
part one
big
and two.
question
Yeah.
from Councillor
Right,
Bannerman, and it does tie in with with Hannah. So let's get going.
Yeah.
Let's do that, Hannah, now, and it should cover off those points.
So should we?
Sure. I mean, we have a presentation. I don't know if that would be useful because it gives a bit of an update. To the immediate question, I spoke with Kelly Gaz on Monday. He is one of the people we're speaking to about how we get a different kind of message out about City of Culture. He was fantastic. He totally gets it and is absolutely supportive of what we're doing, and we'll be doing something. We've used the influencer model before with British Art Show, and we used an ambassador model and an influencer model, and we do the same with our What's on Culture. So it is something that's becoming, I think, more common as part of our campaigns. And you've identified a few, immediately in Plymouth that we're already working with.
Just quickly before that, Kevin, was there something I know you had a question. I didn't want to. Was it tying in with something else?
It was regarding the
Before we
City of
lose
Culture,
you?
so I'm happy to wait till this is done and then speak.
Okay. Yeah, take us through it.
Thank you, brilliant. Well, we've obviously submitted within the report a bit of an update around a number of things around culture, so we're happy to take questions, but given that the live context is City of Culture, we thought that was the best place to spend the conversation today. So Victoria and myself are going to do a bit of a double act on this just to give you an update of where we are and where we're heading in terms of that bid initially for the expression of interest, as David's mentioned. Thank you. So we are heading at speed now towards the 8th of February for the submission of the expression of interest. That is a relatively light document in that it's only 6 pages, no attachments, no links, answer 5 questions and a word limit. So the challenge actually is getting everything we want to say into that and trying to ensure that that reflects the input and feedback we've had from communities, from the sector, from partners. So there's a real sort of wrangling of that to give it the best pitch we can. This is already out of date as a list of people who've announced that they're bidding. We submitted it the other week. So added to this now, you have Exeter, Swindon, Blackpool are deciding whether it's city or town of culture that they're applying for, and Isle of Thanet in Kent and Peterborough. So we're up to 9 now, 10 cities with ourselves included. Not surprising that as we get closer, more are announcing that they're deciding to go for it. So there's some interesting competition and comparators in there, and we're watching very closely what others are doing as well as busily working on our own. Thank you. So just to let you know that what we've been doing around that, we have a working group and a stakeholder group. Some of you in the room are on that and are contributing to those discussions. But we've also been out and about in the community and speaking with our sector. So we've held 3 sector briefings. They've reached almost 300 creatives, many of whom we knew, many of whom we didn't. And it has brought a whole range of people forward who are not currently connected or engaged in this kind of work. So that's been fantastic. And something that we can continue with regardless of where we get to with the City of Culture bid. We've been listening to the feedback and reflecting on the kind of bid themes and references. I don't think there's been anything surprising that's come out of the sector briefings, but there is a need to incorporate much more around young people. That's been made very clear. There's been a need to think very carefully about what we mean by culture and where communities sit within that, which is great to hear. And the importance of freelancers has been reiterated again. There is a precarity to the sector. We are in a difficult, I think James spoke about it earlier, there is a huge opportunity here, but we are working within a space, a sector, a context where the sector is vulnerable around funding, around the immediate future. So we've been really overwhelmed by the sector coming together to look positively at the prospect of this and to really contribute whilst knowing they are in a difficult time themselves. Thank you. We've also been doing community drop-in sessions across the city. So we've been at Saltram, Drake Circus and the Beacon in North Prospect. We've spoken directly to around 300 people during those activities. Some really great things coming out of that. 99% of people, super positive, absolutely think we deserve this. It's our time. Why aren't we shouting louder? Like, this is exactly what we should do to help with positioning and recognition for the city. Some really lovely things coming up about what culture means to people. For example, gardening being one that seems to keep being repeated. So it's great to see that people understand when we talk about culture that it's not just art, it is sport and leisure and hobby and community. And they've really taken that to heart. And there's been a lot coming through about the importance of hyperlocal. So there is pride in this city. There's a huge amount of pride, but sometimes it's connected to a community, a street even, or a very geographically based location. So how do we connect that in a way that it means the whole city has that same understanding, connection, pride? Because it definitely exists. It's just been hidden for a bit too long. Just obviously it's been picked up very positively. We've had a lot of press on this. We haven't quite crunched the numbers yet, but we know through our partner network that it's reaching hundreds of thousands of people, and we are getting people coming to us all the time. Victoria and I have had lots of emails saying like, this is amazing and congratulations, and we really support you, from outside of the city as well. So we're really working on spreading that social media activity so that when we submit on the 8th of February, we don't just stop and wait. It's very much part of our strategy to now start looking at who are those ambassadors for the city who are able to get behind back the bid, and that will be through a kind of social programme of work. And just, we're going to move on to now the sort of bid and where we've got to. I think just wanted to reiterate that we are looking very carefully at what has happened in other cities. There's quite a lot in the report about the benefits and the impact, but also where there have been lessons learned. Thank you. And things that we need to be very conscious of. The case study reports that are connected in the report, some highlights here, just show areas where things didn't quite go to plan with either the targets or the ambitions, or where there were some gaps in provision, or indeed with Coventry where there were some governance structural issues. So we're taking all of that into account whilst we're considering not just what the programme looks like, but how things are managed and governed and how decisions are made as well. Thank you. I'm going to hand over to Victoria.
Thanks, Hannah. So I think, we've discussed this afternoon that this is the moment for Plymouth to bid to be UK City of Culture. And I think it's really important to remember that it would be Plymouth's moment, but it's also about how Plymouth's moment can be amplified and how it can bring benefit and impact to the whole of the United Kingdom. So that's a very, very tall order. And that's why we've seen in other places, maybe sometimes it hasn't worked quite as well because of issues beyond people's control. For instance, the pandemic for Coventry was just totally unfortunate. On the slide, you've got some sort of the proposition, which is, we have masses of cultural ambition, and this is about growth. And we're seeing the city going through a phase of redevelopment and rethinking its purpose and its rationale, driven by defence, driven by housing, driven by a new vision for the city centre. So that's going to be really important. The story of Plymouth is also a story of the UK, but the story of Plymouth isn't always terribly well known, and there are all sorts of misconceptions and negative perceptions about Plymouth, which culture can really help shift that dial. And when we're talking earlier about the visitor economy, it's absolutely culture that will create that change. And I think it's also that our location. We are amazing port city. We are have one of the best waterfronts in the world. And we can talk so much to the rest of the nation. We are an island nation. We have coastal cities and towns right around the country. So we can become a blueprint, an exemplar of best practice. And I think we really need to talk about Plymouth and why Plymouth Place is so important. We've talked a lot about Beryl Cook today, so I won't go on more about that. But, I think Plymouth Place is really important to get across to people because we know our story, but not everyone externally knows the story. Not everyone internally knows the story because there are so many stories. So I think it's really important just to recalibrate that story on a national scale. And we think, and we've talked about this a lot, but we really align at the moment. This is the perfect moment. So I don't think I need to say anything more about that slide. But I think it's really that the community engagement is going to be vitally important. And in terms of the process, we get the EOI in on the 8th of February. We should hear by, we think, the end of March, whether Plymouth has been longlisted. There are going to be up to 8 cities that get longlisted. So it's at that point that we would know where we're heading and go on to a full-scale bid. But the work between the 8th of February and whenever in March is going to be vitally important because we want to take everyone on this journey. It's not about a top-down. It's about really listening to communities and understanding why this is going to be so important for everyone in our city. Questions?
Councillor Bannerman, do you want to carry on with did that cover things? I mean, it's a big subject. I mean, I can see all these hands coming up. Well, I'm conscious of time, guys. So I know it's difficult, Josh, but when you please just ask the question quickly. But Councillor Bannerman, did that answer it?
Yeah, I was just waiting for you to turn your light off, Chair. Thank you. I think it did mainly cover everything, but I just wanted to make a point on what you just said, Victoria, is you want everyone to get on board with this. How do people get on board with this?
So we've put out lots of messaging across the city, but, undoubtedly we haven't hit everyone because we won't at this moment in time. But I think it's going to be really important this next phase, and we have to work out a proper, meaningful engagement plan, consultation through the next few weeks and months, because we want to hear from everyone right across the city. Not, the cultural sector was really important to engage with them, but there are also those communities who may not think they are engaged in culture. In my view, everyone is engaged in culture, but they may see culture as something up here, but culture could be going down to the pub, it could be going to a football match, it could be knitting booties. It can be so much more than visiting the box or going to the Theatre Royal. So I think we've still got some work really to listen. And I think, as someone who's worked in the cultural sector for a very long time, I think what we learned in the cultural sector during the pandemic was that culture became really, really important for everyone. Look at everyone was making stuff, uploading it. It was so important. And I think we've got to, as the cultural sector, listen to the people all around us. And there is something about Beryl that it was about her passion for making and wanting to just make paintings. And I think we shouldn't lose sight of that human need to be creative, and that creativity is going to be really important in terms of skills and training, the defence sector. We need people who are really creative individuals going forwards.
If we can get as many questions in, and then if people have got things to say, wrap up at the end. Thank you. Councillor Spod.
Thank you. I was really pleased to see local influencers like Curly Gaz in there. I will not do the impression. I'm not as good as Councillor Bannerman. Like you said, Victoria, listen to community. I think you're 100% on the money with that. And I'm really excited to see how interested and how Plymouth is all kind of galvanising, and the local community do want us to go for this. And I just wanted to, because something's come through on my phone here regarding a press release that's come out halfway through this meeting about some of the artwork being in Downing Street. So I'd like to ask a little bit about that, but just say personally how interesting and how good it is that we do have things where we're naming local influencers and we're talking about the local things on a community and street level, but we're also hitting that kind of UK recognition. So I just wanted to say thank you and ask more about this press release that's come through, if that's good.
In brief, yes, but happy to talk about it further afterwards. We were invited by the Government Art Collection to be their museum in residence. So 10 works from the Box collection, which is the city's collection, have gone to 10 Downing Street and are currently in the lobby as you go in through the front door and down the main corridor. So every key visitor to 10 Downing Street during the year will go walk past artworks that relate to Plymouth and are part of Plymouth's collections. It's an amazing opportunity. In the summer, we're working with the Government Art Collection. They have this big collection which is spread across the world in embassies and government buildings. We are working with some 16 to 24-year-olds as co-curators who have put together an exhibition that they have selected from this collection of works from that Government Art Collection. So works from Plymouth have gone to government and works from government are coming to Plymouth.
Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to say some nice words and make a joke about Hannah's point about gardening, so we're putting the culture in horticulture, but I'll spare you that and let you move on.
We could have dedicated a whole 2 hours on the Beryl Cook exhibition. I try and keep us on it. I know it's great. Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Chair. I'll try my best to be quick, but no promises. The benefit of being late was that I actually got to see that press release before I came in, and it does seem very, very exciting. I think one of the things that I picked up when you were presenting then, Victoria, was that actually a lot of systems thinking has taken place. You know, just in that short speech there, you talked about Britain's ocean city in the context of an island nation, a coastal powerhouse, you know, and a treasure, a national treasure, through that piece with Downing Street. And I just think, you know, we need to thank the officers and the councillors that have been involved with that over many, many years to make that happen. And I think for me, that systems thinking is why we're in a position that this feels like the right time.
Chair, may I respond to that quickly? So I think there is something about what you have done as council as well. So in 2006, I think Plymouth Culture was established for the first time, and the conversation at the time was it was effectively set up to have a conversation with the council that you should put culture in your local plan, your strategic plan, rather than a chapter at the end through. And you did that. And then from 2016 through to 2020, Mayflower investments, the cultural investment in our city tripled, the Arts Council came along. And today, the conversation you've had almost all day is around the culture being the spark that turns it on. It's the thing that gives you the 1+20. It's the thing that gives you the extra mile. And the moment we're here and why now and everything that everyone's saying, it is a 2-decade journey, and we are so ready. So I can't remember who asked a question about what can we do to get involved? We need 57 advocates in terms of the councillors. So, make noise, advocate in your communities. People are looking at us. The Secretary of State says, I'm liking the banter. We need to be authentic. We need to have self-confidence. And there's something about Beryl Cook, isn't there? This has been one of the most positive scrutinies I've been in 15 years. It's, everyone's sort of, we just all want the same thing for our city, and this is a unifying force. So, all I want to say is your advocacy in 2006, whenever it was, that is partially why we're here. And these are choices. Lots of city have turned off this agenda. They haven't seen its value. They'd be talking about bricks and mortar and culture in 2 separate meetings. So if there is ever a moment to bring it all together, it is now. But your advocacy is noticed. What you say on social media will be noticed. How you describe it will be noticed. How you advocate to your citizens will count. So that's kind of my 2 penneth.
Cool, right. If people just want to wrap up.
Chair, can I just
That'd be great.
just respond to that? I think if you go back to one of the key priorities for the brand strategy, it was about perception and changing perception and altering the view with a city that's altering itself, and those two things go hand in hand. So I think not only does the cultural piece, as I think has been described, give people the hope while the change is happening, because some people have got to wait quite a number of years for that change to really impact their lives. So it delivers that aspect of their daily life. The other one, though, is we're now putting a marker out through things like City of Culture, which is a calling card. I've received many phone calls where the first thing someone says to me is, oh, you're going for City of Culture. We talk about national conversations. That's absolutely gold dust, because then a conversation starts in the right moment that, that we are ready and pretty interesting to talk to. So I think the perception piece was key. It's a place-making agenda fundamentally, and it's a calling card. I think those things are all really fundamental. Thanks, Chair.
Jemima.
I say that hasn't already been said. I mean, why wouldn't we? Why wouldn't we go for it? As David talks about the narrative of 20 years of really heading to this place where we are now, our incredible officers that we have, Victoria and David, our incredible partners, James, who we had earlier, Paul, our cultural leaders in the city, the assets, the cultural assets we have, and the story we've got to tell is it's impressive. I don't think we should be modest about it. We've been very clear that we're not to present ourselves as a finished city of culture. We've got to this point, and there is a journey for us to go on that City of Culture can really turbo boost for us around our city. And Hannah and Victoria have worked incredibly hard, because the EOI date is it's a fairly constricted timescale to get to that point, to press go on Sunday. And just to reiterate what David said around what can you do? What can you do? You can be on social media. We've had a conversation about social media and using social media, and that's the way to get to people. A picture of yourself with that, we can give you the assets. I'm backing the bid. We're backing the bid. Somewhere, unusual or different that catches people's attention. Using our influencers in the city, absolutely obvious, because again, it really speaks to culture isn't just about going to the theatre, going to the box. It's how we live. It's what we do, and I think we've got an extraordinary story to tell. You can probably tell. I'm so excited about this bid, and what it will mean for our residents in our city, what it will do for perception outside the city. There's a two-pronged thing there, and I really hope we get to long listing, but we are, because you have to kind of work on the basis that we will, because there's work to do between pressing go and getting to the point of finding out that you've been longlisted, and that work will be happening because we are so serious about this. This isn't a frivolous endeavour. We've got an amazing story to tell. We need to tell it.
Brilliant. Thank you. It has been very positive, and I think we'll support the bid. Hopefully, we'll be successful. We've got some of our rivals putting in bids at the same time, but let's hope Plymouth comes out on top. Really appreciate all your efforts. We are a critical friend. It's been very positive. There are things in this report. There are challenges with the economy, so it's important that we talk about them as well. But thank you for today. Brilliant. The recommendations from recollection were that we basically support, this ongoing effort of Destination Plymouth, and to support everything that we're doing. I think that's the headline there. Have you got that recorded, Hannah? Yeah.
Through you, Chair, if everyone's happy to agree the recommendations as listed in the report.
Yeah.
Might I ask whether you could explicitly support, as a committee, support the bid in your recommendations?
Are we happy to explicitly support the bid? We are all 100% supporting. Strong leadership. On the work programme, I have a proposal. I think because of everything that's been going on with the pubs and the hospitality sector, and things that we're reading and things that are in reports, and James is talking about, brought up this the hardest it's been for the sector. I think really that the industry's looking to us as a council to be a forum, be a voice. And as Lauren alluded to earlier, I just think we need to get a meeting in as soon as we can, just to kick that conversation off as a council and just do what we can to stimulate that and give the sector a voice. Is everybody happy with that?
Chair, are you proposing an additional meeting for this work programme?
I am for complete simplicity and to get it rolling. How it unfolds after that is another thing. But for simplicity and the urgency of the situation, if we can just place a meeting as quickly as we can, that'll be great.
Chair, just for clarity, are you proposing after an additional meeting last week, are you proposing another additional meeting this month in order to do this?
I know what you're saying, and I wasn't intending to put in as many additional meetings as we have, but because of the urgency of the situation with the hospitality sector, with our pubs, and all the conversations that are growing, I'm having people in the city, people that live in my ward, people, the businesses. I think that they would really respect us for having a meeting in. It doesn't have to be the most taxing situation. There only needs to be 4 of us to be core. You have substitutes. Just to have that platform to kick things off, I think is a good way forward.
Chair, I fail to see really how a scrutiny meeting can address the major societal and economic concerns around the hospitality sector which are affecting this country nationwide. I would propose that we go to a vote on whether we introduce an additional meeting, and we do so now.
Okay, well, I'm proposing, because of all the factors and the businesses that we're seeing, B-Bar, the Walrus, the Bread and Roses, I think they would want us to have that additional meeting. I've spoken to democratic support. There is capacity there if we need it, just to springboard things, because we've got contacts. I'm proposing that, and I hope that you'll support me. If you really want to go to a vote, we can. All in favour of having an additional meeting?
Can I just clarify what the scope is of the vote, given that most of this area is set by national policy? For those things where there are local levers, there is scope in a small subgroup potentially looking at this. I'm not adverse to it per se. I just want to understand what the proposed scope is for such a session, given that many of these are national policies and
scrutinising locally.
Yeah. I think if officers were able to provide an overview of what the council currently does in this space, so therefore we could take an assessment down the line of whether it's worthwhile, that might be one way to go.
It will all be a very, 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 let me emphasise that, locally based on supporting our businesses. And the questions you raise are the questions that will come up in that meeting. I did speak to Glenn and the team in the pre-meet, is that we can flesh out terms of reference as time goes on. It was just getting the agreement for us to proceed. Glenn, could you assist on terms of reference?
So through you, Chair, I think I do need a little bit more on the scope. Obviously, we discussed this very lightly beforehand. I know that when Councillor McLean brought it up earlier, you mentioned licensing, for example. So I think that there is, in terms of needing to determine what the remit is, because if we are going to be discussing something like licensing, coupled with what's discussed here, that would actually then come under the remit of the Scrutiny Management Board, because it was across 2 different scrutiny panels. So I think that's just to highlight that part of it, if that helps.
Lauren, I know you're passionate about this, but is there anything you'd like to add that just some sort of terms of reference for this particular meeting?
I think I outlined it when I spoke earlier. Essentially, what we're seeing is businesses from the Ridgeway to Royal William Yard being impacted, and every day it feels like there's a new small business that's going under, and particularly in relation to the kind of bit that we have about the pride of Plymouth and the face of Plymouth. Our small and independent businesses are a really integral part in that, and if they require some additional support, I think hearing what their issues are directly from them would be really beneficial, particularly in relation to growth for the city.
We could really bog ourselves down into it. We could get the general principle that we need this platform as soon as we can. We can flesh that out and put it out to you. I mean, the concept is that we just need to get together with the sector and see how we can help local businesses.
I think we all want to see, we're all really clear that we want to see our small businesses, and particularly hospitality businesses, thrive. That is right, that is what this committee is here to do. I think it is hard to think of a year where there hasn't been a bit of buffeting, or, I would love to see if we have anything that informs why this is a worse patch. And I think I'd like to take advice from the economic development team to understand if we're seeing indeed, I know we see the headlines. Are these one-off headlines in quick succession? Like, what are the overall trends here to warrant what can be done, and indeed what are the levers we have as a local authority to influence those? I think, if this is about the committee raising something with our MPs or raising with something with those four that can make impact, then I'm up for that. I just think we need to be realistic about what we can achieve as a scrutiny committee.
It needs to be completely realistic. The proposal is that we have an additional meeting to discuss a current event about our hospitality sector.
Chair, I'm in agreement. I'm a big advocate for the evening nighttime economy, and I think there are probably things we can discuss. I guess where we're at is if Hannah can get the clarity on what that looks like, how that fits into a sphere. Maybe we shouldn't commit to having a meeting next week, because it might take us 5 weeks or it might take us 3. So maybe we could take this piece online rather than discussing it now in committee. But I think the premise of discussing further is in how we can help. I don't have issue with that. It's just how we do that and what it looks like. It feels like we need to decide before we commit to exactly what we're trying to do, so we're not, painting ourselves into a corner maybe.
It's just my pragmatic nature, and I just think if we get something in the diary, we can go from there. Okay?
Through you, Chair, I think just to highlight again, in terms of the remit, is if it crosses over more than one scrutiny panel, it will go to Scrutiny Management Board. And in terms of capacity, obviously we've had 2 additional meetings this year. There is limited calendar availability, but equally from my colleagues, there are 2 select committees that are already underway with the Scrutiny Management Board, so that might cause an issue in terms of timing, and need to be put forward for next year if it crossed over.
I think we all want to see our local businesses do well, and we want to support them as much as we can. My real concern here is we don't understand really the terms of reference. And until, otherwise we're sort of being bounced into something with the best of intentions that may not be actually practicable or sensible or discussed in the right place by the right people. So I would really like democratic support and others to really work this through before we take a decision on it.
Sure.
I really do oppose the sort of lack of structure and planning as you, as a chair of this committee. The decline and the issues facing the hospitality sector of this city and this country are nothing new. This sector has been in decline for years, especially post-COVID, and with a number of legislative changes that have happened that have depressed the market. Energy prices, cost of living have all impacted. And this is nothing new. If you were particularly interested in investigating the hospitality sector, you could have included this on the work plan of this committee, and then the officers could have investigated whether it fell under the remit of this committee or whether it crossed and therefore needs to go to Scrutiny Management Board. This sort of on the hoof declaration of meetings, I don't think it's useful for the planning of officer time, which is valuable. I don't think it's valuable to the planning of the time of this committee, many of whom have obligations elsewhere. And I purely believe that it's being introduced for political purposes. And I really do object to this sort of on the hoof declaration of meetings. We had an additional meeting last week. We had previous additional meetings. You know, where does this end? Where does this process end? And I think we need a proper structure, a proper work plan set in place. And unless it's an emergency and it's, you know, couldn't be foreseen, then I think proper chairing of this meeting needs to be included in that proper work plan. We can't just creating ad hoc meetings for ad hoc reasons as we work through the year. I really do object. And I think it's really poor practice.
Jeremy, I'm always here to listen, and you've made yourself very clear there extensively. I have given a simple proposal. I believe there is an emergency, and I'm proposing that we had an additional meeting. All in favour?
I choose to abstain. Just to come in from a constitutional viewpoint, although you can, it is. If I can quote the Constitution, so the Overview and Scrutiny Committees can set their own programmes of work, and it is up to the Overview and Scrutiny Committee Chair to decide to call a meeting. However, as we've discussed, and perhaps we need to take this offline, is in terms of remit is where that meeting sits, and then in terms of time frame from there.
I don't know whether it's feasible or not, but on the back of the evidence we've heard, is it possible to do a recommendation which says we've listened to concerns about the hospitality sector and we'd like the council to write to ministers or get the MPs so that we're actually raising it today rather than waiting for something else to happen?
Chair, I have a concern that it's beyond hospitality. It is a sector-wide, small and independent, whatever it might be. But I actually think that the first key thing is for us to get a kind of state of play. What is the lay of the land? What kind of facts and figures are we looking at? And I really appreciate your points, Hannah, about kind of dual scrutiny needing to go to Scrutiny Management Board and the kind of timelines and kind of workload concerns. I am concerned, Councillor Gosling, that this is being made into a political point when it's not. However, I think in order to get a lay of the land, that is a good first starting point.
Councillor Holloway.
I think seeing the evidence would be really, really welcome. I know, David and the team, you have a lot of this at your fingertips, so we can see year-on-year trends. It is a really serious and important issue. As it is cross-cutting, you know, you said the terms were, Chair, was about the hospitality, you've got a slightly different remit. I wonder if, as a committee, we pull together a recommendation, I don't know whether it's a recommendation here or a note to the Chair of the SMB saying we would like the SMB to consider the full suite of issues pertaining to small independent / including hospitality businesses before the end of this municipal year.
Thank you, Chair. Just to confirm, we do have that data. We can pull together a relatively short paper on what the statistics are telling us. You've heard some of it today around the kind of global national impact on small businesses, particularly those in hospitality and perhaps in the city centre, so crossing over into retail. Can't do that right now. That will take a little bit of time, and we can also add to that the kind of scale and scope of the local authorities' influence over that, just picking up some of the concerns about from members around actually what is our ability to impact that. We could produce that. I'd have to speak to colleagues about a timescale for doing that, as it's a particularly busy time of the year, but then send that to the committee, whether that's by email or written procedures to consider further.
Councillor McLean.
Thank you, Glenn. That feels like a really positive step forward. I think the other thing I'd be really interested to hear as part of that work is looking at empty premises. We've heard there's potential good story to tell there. What is that good story? And also in terms of council-owned stock, how much are we implementing? Meanwhile use and kind of any other levers that we can be pulling, are we helping to pull them?
Councillor Holloway.
I think those are really good points, Councillor McLean. I would also say if we've had some of that in our papers today and in previous meetings over the course of this municipal year. If we as a committee want to make recommendations to do so, do we need to have a, how wide do we want to extend this, that, we sort of have the opportunity to make recommendations as a result of the sessions we've just had and elsewhere. Maybe we can do better in the sessions we have to make punchier recommendations after each item. I think we've got to understand what are the parameters of what we want to do in the time we have together.
Listen, I have proposed an additional meeting, which can happen if we wanted to, about the pubs and hospitality in the city. Does anyone support me on that? Having an extra meeting. We could be here all day. We can either not have the meeting or we can. So who would like an additional meeting?
Bringing in evidence, bringing in people.
Of course, we will do as best as we can to get the whole discussion moving forward. Can I have those in favour, please, of an additional meeting?
Chair,
I
could
think
we
I've made it very
caveat though, because we've just heard from Democratic support that we have to clarify this. So if we can get the Democratic support clarification, and Glenn's report sounds like a really sensible starting point, could we not have this vote online then and take it up and do it? Because we can still expedite and make things happen quickly. Otherwise, we're just going to be here voting on.
Yeah,
who
I've
said
got
we
the
should talk
sense
about the
we
nighttime
don't want the
economy,
additional meeting.
which we all want to talk about, but we're not.
Josh, I've got the sense you don't want the additional meeting. I'm disappointed by
Chair,
that.
Chair, I don't think it's about not wanting the additional meeting. I think it's about not understanding the purpose and the terms. And like we've just heard from Democratic support, it's not as simple as just saying, let's have another meeting willy-nilly. I think that it would be beneficial to have Glenn's report and then make a decision on that.
That's the feeling of the committee, that we don't want the additional meeting, which that's the facts of the matter. We could have the additional meeting. We're gonna get further information. We're gonna proceed from there.
Chair, can we not say that we don't want the additional meeting, because I feel like we're then going back into that, you're trying to make a political statement here. We understand that the Bread and Roses is in your ward, and it's very sad that it is potentially going to close, and we understand that you're upset about the hospitality. We all are. So don't try putting on us that we don't want it. We're saying we need to do this properly.
It's not in my ward. That was just one of the businesses that is in jeopardy. As much as you don't want to answer it, that is the plain fact. I proposed the additional meeting. You don't want it. You want additional information first, and that's where we are. That's the will of the committee.
Could I make a counter proposal that actually we get the information from Democratic support, we get the paper from Glenn's team, and then we make that decision of when exactly we have that meeting, because I agree that it's really urgent that we have it and it's important, but I wholeheartedly feel we do it in the right way. So could I have that as a proposal, please?
I'd like to second that proposal.
Thank you.
That's the course the committee want to take. We'll get the further information and we'll go from there. Thank you.
With a view that the whole scrutiny committee is receptive to having an additional meeting subject to the report.
They're receptive.
So again, it's in the remit of it's to the chair's discretion if an additional meeting is held, and as previously advised, the quorum is 4. So providing that we've got quorum for the meeting, it will go ahead if agreed. Just to clarify that point.
Brilliant. Thank you. That's great. Thank you all. We have the work programme on page 93 to 98. After that, everyone happy with that? Thank you. The action log, Hannah, anything there?
Just to say, Chair, I've obviously got some additional ones from last week and this week, and I will be looking to try and close any historical ones down before the new year.
Thank you. Thank you for today. It's been a great effort, and I know we've had some discussions towards the end there. I did feel it was important, but we've all expressed ourselves and we've got a way forward. So thank you. Have a good rest of the evening.